Welcome to another live stream. Of course, we're back. Yesterday we did a deadline stream and today we are doing a reaction stream. And obviously we're going to be looking at Game Week 6, what's happened so far, and then looking ahead to Game Week 7 and some of my initial plans, thoughts, even the captaincy, talking about all of that. And then in future videos I'll be kind of just discussing it in more detail and finalising my moves. Thank you to everyone who has joined in. Really appreciate it, of course. And another great day of football, to be honest, and so much has happened. And I mean, Liverpool, very surprising. This game was very good against Brentford. I expected Liverpool to win, but you know, these things can happen, and here we are. Thank you very much to everyone who has joined in once again. I'm going to be going through all your questions as always and trying to answer every single one of your comments. And yeah, over 20 people watching already. Really appreciate it. GPL says this week has been a disaster, and to be honest, in terms of points, I have to agree, but then again, it's relative. A lot of people are in the same situation. So honestly, it's not the end of the world, and you can't have everyone. You look at my midfield, for example, and I was very hesitant to get rid of either Jota or Greenwood. I thought both of them could do well this week. Jota did the business, although to be honest, he should have got even more points in the end. Would be great to have Rafinha in the long term anyway. He scored and he was unlucky not to get another attacking return. And my captain failed, really. A lot of people went with Ronaldo too. But some people, you know, those who went with Antonio and Salah, fair play to you. And that's why I said any of them are good captaincy choices. Sometimes it goes for you, sometimes it doesn't. And end of the day, Salah is just a great FPL asset. And Antonio this season is on another level. For fuck's sake, Brentford. Salah was so casual 1v1 too. Yeah, but at least he did get the goal. He got his 100th Premier League goal for Liverpool. But yeah, it's impossible, to be honest. What a game. Liverpool versus Brentford. Game of the season so far. Yeah, I didn't expect that. I was watching it just before coming live and then setting it up and then updating my points. And what you can see on the left-hand side, by the way, is the updated points. And I've got 44 at this moment in time. And Salah, Jotter, I believe, Salah, they should all be getting some bonus. Same with Antonio. And my defence is actually a joke at the moment. You know, all of them blanking. Let's see what Cody does, but I'm not really expecting too much. But yeah, I have to say it's probably one of the best games so far this season. And yeah, free. Absolutely incredible. Thanks, Dylan, for the spot-on views that Salah, Rafinha, Gray, etc. will haul, and they did. No problem. They are very popular choices, so I'm not going to take credit for that, to be honest. I think Rafinha, in my opinion, kind of excluding the West Ham game anyway, I just think he's a good option long-term. I still have a few doubts because Bamford's out. Bamford could be back by Game Week 7. Let's wait and see what Bielsa says in the future. But yeah, I think Rafinha's just a great option. Long-term, he's the best of the three. Salah, facing two of the worst defences. Obviously, he's already done a very good goal, actually. A header against Newcastle. But let's wait and see how he does in Game Week 7. As for Gray, all of their midfielders did well. Allen got the assist for the penalty. Also, Decore scored. And then you have Townsend scoring a penalty. And he scored 9 out of 9 penalties in his career. So a lot of options there from Everton. But I still prefer Calvert-Lewin when he's back. And of course, any of you who have Digne, very happy, you're finally getting a return from him. And then you have Trent, meanwhile, and Shaw, Reece James, all the Chelsea defenders really doing so poorly. And now you look at Manchester City, a lot of people will be kind of tempted by them. And for anyone wildcarding in Game Week 8, for example, I think 1 or 2 City defenders is great. And I'd still be recommending a Chelsea double up in defence, if not just the one. Currently on 49 points with Gallagher and Cody to play, including bonuses. That's a good score, to be honest. And yeah, I've only got Cody left. Yeah, so you're definitely going to outscore me this week, for example, and I'm reasonably happy. After all the games are done, though, I'll probably be down to 70k, maybe 100k, depending on the other games. But yeah, 49 with 2 players left. Gallagher and Cody, I think both of them could do all right. Bro, I'm on 26. Yeah, this is the thing. It's impossible to do well every single week, but hopefully next week is much better. Best replacements for Jota? I'd say the same names as before. Salah, Rafinha, Gray. Obviously, Gray against Manchester United might be a bit of a difficult one, but you saw how Villa played against them, and United are beatable. But I'd probably recommend one of the other two if you don't have them already. Currently on 41 points, Veltman and Sanchez yet to play, hoping for a Brighton clean sheet. Honestly, I'm hoping he doesn't keep a clean sheet because I ended up going with Foster instead. But yeah, that should be a good game too. It'll be interesting. It could go either way. It could even be a draw. But Sanchez, I am a bit worried. I think he could keep the clean sheet in the end. The way this week has been going so far. Horrible week, yep. It's the same for most people. I have gone up, in my own case, slightly up to 45k. At one point I was around 20, 30k. But yeah, I'm expecting a drop, to be honest. A red arrow at the end of the day. 51 for the week, that's a good score, to be honest. If you have anyone left, then yeah, you could improve on that. Hola, mi hermano on 42 points, including bonus with Livramento and Sanchez left. Disappointed with Ronaldo captain. Yeah, similar to me really, and you've got Livramento, he could do well, and Sanchez. So overall you could hit I'd say 46, maybe 50 points. That wouldn't be too bad in a week like this. 31 points, yeah, a lot of scores like this, probably ranging from 25 to 45. I think the average is going to be really low this week. It's going to be the lowest of the season so far. There's going to be maybe 1 or 2 other game weeks like this, but I wouldn't be too concerned. Insane week, don't you think? Yeah, I mean, great football, great games. FPL points, not so much, but you got to take what you get, and you can't have everyone. Golden Boot is going to be crazy. Salah, Ronaldo, Lukaku, Antonio and Vardy. Crazy attacking quality in the league now, yeah. And imagine if Aubameyang and Kane were right on form as well. They could also be great shouts, but yeah, I wouldn't be expecting them. For me, it's going to be between Salah, Ronaldo and Lukaku, but you can't exclude Vardy and Antonio. They're doing so well at the moment, but Salah at the moment is looking very sharp. Captain choice was a sad one for me, and what do we do with Ronaldo? His fixtures are getting tough, and Lukaku has a good run from next game week. I still maintain the same belief, despite the blank. You can still keep him ahead of the Everton game. I'm not trustful of Everton. Obviously, Pickford's back, so they're going to be better than they would be without him. But still, it's not the end of the world keeping Ronaldo for another home game against Everton. Obviously, United were poor and lacked that cutting edge up front today, but that could easily change against Everton. And I would rather prioritise the Chelsea defenders first and then get in Lukaku by game week 8 or 9. There's not really a big rush to get him in just yet. 47 points for free to go, acceptable, definitely. I mean, I'd rather have that, for example. I've got 44 and only 1 left to play, really. 59 points after bonus, Vardy party with Zaha, Gaeta and Semedo to go. Hope I can hit the 70-point mark. I mean, that's a very good score in my opinion. And Vardy scores an own goal and you're thinking, this is just the worst week ever. And then he scores twice for you. So fair play. And yeah, Vardy was always going to be a good choice this week. And his own goal was actually identical to Aubameyang against Burnley. Dyer week 29 with 1 to go. Yeah, these things can happen. And if it wasn't for Salah, I brought him in late, by the way. I didn't even get him before the price rise. I'm talking about late. I'm not even going to talk about what hours of the night I stayed up until, thinking of my transfers. But I got in Salah late. Got rid of Tony as well, who got an assist today. And if it wasn't for that, this would be even worse. So imagine. Highest points is 73. Damn, this was a bad weekend. Yeah, there's going to be better ones to come, but there's also going to be a few similar ones in terms of low scores. So we just have to be used to it. Cancelo is nearly a must-have from Game Week 8, as it seems. Yeah, if not Diaz, it will do, but Cancelo has that attacking threat, and when he is nailed, he is a fantastic option, no doubt about it. And in Game Week 8, if I do wildcard then, which is looking more likely now, I probably will be getting him, Trent, at least 1 Chelsea defender, maybe 2, but yeah, Cancelo's looking great. Should I take a hit to get rid of Torres? It depends who you get rid of him for. If it's for Rafinha or even Ismaila Sarr, it could be worth it. Although with Sarr, I wouldn't say you've missed the boat yet. I mean, you still have some good game weeks to come and he can do well against anyone. But I think Rafinha would be the one to go for if you don't have him already. Is this the worst week ever? Personally, no. I've had worse weeks, trust me. This season so far, yeah, it's probably the worst. But I wouldn't say it's the worst week ever. And there have been even lower scoring weeks, I'm pretty sure, in the past for most people. This has been an awful week for me, sitting at 24 points with 4 players left. Am I the only one having such a bad week? No, mate. I mean, the template is very strong. So a lot of the players you have, a lot of other managers have too. So it's not the end of the world. And look, if you don't have Rafinha this week, it is what it is. You probably won't want to get him in a few game weeks' time, but you can't have everyone. And trust me, a lot of people are in this situation. Most people captain Ronaldo, and if not, of course, those who captain Salah and Antonio would have had more joy. But other than that, really, yeah, the teams are so similar. Most people have Shaw, if not a Chelsea defender, and also Trent Alexander-Arnold, all blanked. Then you look at, Foster, Sanchez, kind of the same template keepers. A lot of people have them too. Let's see how the Wolves defenders do. A lot of people have been getting in on them recently. Benrama, he got a bonus point actually, I'm pretty sure, so that's encouraging. But of course, he did blank pretty much. Antonio did very well. A lot of people have him and brought him back for a hit. So yeah, really the teams are very similar. And even, believe it or not, a lot of people have Greenwood and Jota. Maybe not both of them combined. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I wouldn't be too, downtrodden by it. Why has your Salah only got 1 point? He has 7. Yeah, that's a good point. Let me refresh the page. Yeah, Salah's got 1 point. Yeah, here you go. Salah has got 7, and I think he's going to get bonus points. Not completely sure, but him and Jota should be getting them. Here you go. There's the updated score. Thank you very much. I actually forgot to refresh the page. Mate Ollie has done the most he could. I think it's time for him to go. Bad week for me as well. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I've never really trusted Ollie to win a trophy, and even a few weeks ago, I'm talking about Chelsea, City, and Liverpool for the title. I still think that, I just think with United, they're so inconsistent, and of course, Ollie's done a great job, especially with players like Luke Shaw and Greenwood, but I don't think he can take United to the next level, in my opinion. Of course, I can still be proven wrong, and United still need, I think, quality defensive midfielders. It just makes such a difference. You look at Chelsea and Manchester City, the level of quality they have in the midfield, and United just don't really have that. You're not getting a red arrow with 44 points, to be honest. I mean, I've only got Cody left. The reason why I'm saying I'm going to get a red arrow is at the end of the week, because we still have 3 games left. We've got 2 games tomorrow and then 1 on Monday, and a lot of people will be having Sanchez. To be fair, not that many people will have Spurs or Arsenal assets, but you look at Wolves and Southampton, that could also be another one where my rank drops notably, maybe not significantly. Jesus Christ, already with the voice cracks. I had a few yesterday. 38 points, 3 defenders to play. Depends which defenders these are, but that's not really the worst in the world in my opinion. I'm 35 with Sanchez on the way. Also captain CR7. I hope UCL will be a bit better. Champions League was awful for me, so hopefully that continues to improve. But yeah, I mean, FPL wasn't the greatest this week. Force on bringing in Vardy on a wild card. Still not for me. I would rather have Lukaku up front and then have Salah in the midfield. But of course, Vardy is a good option. I was talking about him actually as kind of a short-term punt, as a replacement for Bamford, for example, if you could stretch to him. So, of course, Vardy is a good option. I'm just not going to go there myself. Still in my midfield, I have Greenwood, Salah, Gray, Sarr, Rafinha. Do you think I need any changes? Not necessarily. Not for the time being. I think Greenwood is the kind of main problem there going forward. You could keep him against Everton, but if not, yeah, maybe he could make way. But you've already got Sarr and Rafinha, who in my opinion are 2 of the best around their price. So there's not really a viable alternative. So you could just keep Greenwood for another week and then possibly move on. 36 points in Gallagher and Gaeta to play. That's not too bad. It's not the worst, and you will have better scores to come. 29 with 5 to play, captain Antonio. So we'll get the free bonus doubled hopefully. Yeah, I mean, that's a good captaincy shout, and yeah, that's a good choice. Not the worst score in the world. And once again, most people are in the same boat. 59 points after bonus. Marçal and Sanchez left to play. Nice with Cancelo Hall. Yeah, Cancelo is a very good choice. Whoever has him already, fair play. And of course, a lot of people will be getting him in ahead of Game Week 8. His ownership is relatively low right now, but I'd expect it to maybe double by the time the wildcards are being played this week and next. People slept on Vardy because of his price point, but he's worth it. He's always worth it. It's just Leicester, in terms of XG before this game, they were bottom of the league, I'm pretty sure. And look, Vardy, of course, is a stats buster. He doesn't need too many chances, but there's just so many options elsewhere. And long term, you would argue Lukaku will be better. But of course, Vardy is a good choice. 66 watching, hit the like button. Thank you very much, Neil. And it's now 114, so thank you very much, guys and girls. Also, Cancelo been getting great bonus points as well. Yeah, and even then, I'm not sure if he got them today, but yeah, he had such a good performance today. And City completely dominated the game. They should have scored maybe another goal or 2, and that was a commanding performance. I think Chelsea, look, I still back them, I think, to go all the way to the wire in terms of the league title. And they're probably still my favourites to win it. But yeah, Liverpool, City, Chelsea should be a very interesting one. Change captain from Salah to Ronaldo last minute, bit annoyed. Yeah, these things can happen, and sometimes, maybe Ronaldo would have got the penalty instead of Bruno. He does well, and then Salah blanks against Brentford. You never know. It's really tough. Whenever you're trying to captain someone like Ronaldo, Lukaku, Antonio, Salah, you've got so many options. It could go for you one week, and then the next it doesn't. Take out Jota or Greenwood this week for a below 7 million midfielder and Rudiger for sure. Looking at the fixture, I'd say get rid of Jota, but I think I would rather have him over Greenwood in the long term, so I'd probably get rid of Greenwood instead. To be honest, Salah and Jota could get more goals. Raya was really good, exactly, and such a great game, so open-ended. Same with the West Ham versus Leeds game, and definitely both of them should have done more, especially Jota. Change Maximan for Dennis. I wouldn't be getting rid of Maximan now, and he was one of the options I highlighted as a short-term replacement for Bamford. I wouldn't be getting rid of him. I'm hoping for Semedo Hall. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that too. That would probably mean Cody does alright. But yeah, I mean, that will be interesting to see what happens. I think that's the kind of most consequential game from now on. Wolves versus Southampton, if you look at the remaining fixtures. Should you start Trent against City? I still think, you don't have to start him because the fixture is relatively tough, but I probably still will. I'll be showing you my team at this moment in time in a second. But yeah, should I get rid of Bamford for Toney for a -4? Will allow me to upgrade Ayling to Cancelo next game week? I'd wait and see in terms of the press conferences, because if Bamford's back for next week, you probably want him. He's got a great fixture run, and Toney faces some very tough teams still. I think Leicester and West Ham aren't the worst fixtures in the world for Brentford and Toney, but Chelsea, I would expect that to be a cagey affair. I don't think it's going to be open-ended like this game was today. I think Chelsea will be more conservative and they could maybe grind out a 1 or 2-0 victory. But the other games, Leicester, I mean, look how many goals Burnley scored today. I'm not even too surprised. It happened last season as well. So, yeah, I can see why you want to do that, but I keep Bamford. 37 with bonus with 5 to play. Fingers crossed for Wolves. Yeah, that's not the worst. 5 players left. I think that's a pretty decent position to be in. I'm at 29 with only Duffy and Traore left, no hope. Yeah, well, maybe you could get 40 points, you never know, and then just bounce back next week. And if you haven't played your wildcard yet, you'd probably be considering it soon. Cancelo or Diaz, which one should be chosen? At this moment in time, it has to be Cancelo because he's nailed and he's got that attacking potential. But long term, I'm looking up until the end of the season. Diaz would be your kind of set and forget defender. But at this moment in time, definitely Cancelo. Salah nor Jota got bonus points somehow. That is incredible. At one point, Jota was on... Whoa, another voice crack. Jota was on for 2 bonus points. But yeah, and same with Salah actually. Yeah, Salah and Jota isn't going to get bonus. Dylan, do you think Bruno Ronaldo will take penalties in the coming fixtures? I think Ronaldo. I'm very surprised actually that Bruno actually took it, but he's got a great record for Manchester United, and I mean the way he skied it, I'm very surprised at that, but it can happen to anyone. Evening low scoring week overall. I think probably need to wildcard with James, Shaw, Ayling, Rafinha, and a 4.5 million striker. Yeah, I can see why you think that. Reece James and Shaw, let's wait and see how long those injuries are. Ayling could miss out in game week 7. Rafinha, once again, he's flagged for a hip injury. Yeah, I can see why you'd want a wild card either in game week 7 or 8. I got Cancelo instead of Trent at the beginning of the season. I feel kind of smug right now. I think first 4 fixtures, Trent was doing better, but of course, yeah, up until now, last 2 game weeks, Cancelo has surpassed Trent. But I think both are great options. You can always go for both and a Chelsea defender. When will you wildcard? Probably game week 8. Before that, I was open to the idea of maybe wildcarding even later, but because of the transfers I made ahead of game week 6 and how my team is looking like in game week 7 and 8, I'm thinking I could get ahead of the curve with a wildcard around game week 8. So that's what I'm thinking. And yeah, just a kind of quick summary of my team so far. I'll be talking about this in my team selection. Ronaldo captain was a flop. Obviously, I talked about Salah and Antonio. I considered them. In the end, I didn't go for them. And fair play to any of you who did go for those players. Greenwood, very disappointing. But once again, I was just not comfortable getting rid of him or Jota ahead of game week 6. And if I did do that, I probably would have gotten Alonso in the defence. And of course, he got yellow carded and didn't get the clean sheet. So getting Sarr in for Toney really isn't the worst transfer in the world. Long term though, I do want Toney, and on a wild card, I'd probably bring him back in. And it's not even just looking at the game today, it's just looking at the fixtures long term and also just the way Toney and Brentford play. I do like the look of them, and Luke Shaw, of course, is a big concern. Getting a yellow card and then substituted off because of an injury. Yeah, I mean, this guy's kind of a troll. He's a bit like Digne, in my opinion, and I drew a comparison yesterday. And yeah, unfortunately, Shaw has been very disappointing. He had a few kind of decent returns with bonus points and assists, but it just hasn't worked out. Foster, at least he got some save points. He nearly got another save point. Actually, he was 1 off from getting 6 saves overall. Not the worst, though. 3 points. Hopefully, Sanchez blanks, looking at it from a selfish point of view. Cody yet to play. Benrama had a very good performance. I think he was unlucky not to score against Leeds. And Antonio, right at the death, finally scores against Leeds United on his 10th appearance. And there you go, Antonio, great captaincy shout, same with Salah. And as for my bench, let's see what White does. Ayling, of course, missed out through injury. And Richardson, yeah, he's just bench fodder really, so not much to talk about there. And this is how my team is looking like at this moment in time. I probably would play Sanchez against Arsenal over Foster against Leeds. I expect Leeds to score in that game. And to be fair, Arsenal probably will score against Brighton, but that could be a bit of a cagier game. Leeds versus Watford could be a bit more open. And the defence isn't too bad, but I will be getting rid of Shaw, I believe. Probably for a Chelsea defender, that is the plan. And in game week 8, that's where I'll be looking at Cancelo or an additional Chelsea defender and Lukaku. And that is where the wildcard could come into play. The midfield's pretty decent, I think. Obviously, Jota and Salah up against Man City. It isn't ideal. Greenwood against Everton. United definitely need to improve, and they're just not looking very consistent at the moment or reliable. Sarr against Leeds is pretty decent, and same with Benrama against Brentford. But yeah, I'd have to say I'm actually not too optimistic with this team overall heading into game week 7. It doesn't look the best. But I think there's no real need to just rush the wildcard straight away. I still think Game Week 8 could be a better time to wildcard, at least in my team situation. It depends on what your team is looking like. And Ben White on my bench, I could arguably start him, maybe over Jota. But yeah, I mean, that's a tough call. And as for the rest, Ayling against Watford at home, not the worst fixture, but I just don't trust Leeds defensively. And I've already got Salah, Richardson, forget about him. So that's how my team is looking like. Let me know what you think. As for the captaincy, I'm going to have to give this a good think over the week, but I'm not going to be captaining Salah against Manchester City, I believe. He is fixture-proof, he could score, but I want someone whose ceiling is a bit higher, and I think Ronaldo and Antonio, probably the two best captaincy shouts in terms of those in my team. And I'll be showing you my transfer plans very shortly, but it obviously will be involving Luke Shaw. And thank you very much for everyone with the comments. Keep Jota, asks Laser. In my opinion, this is the thing. If you're on a wild card, and you're going to use it in Game Week 7, I probably would be getting rid of him. But in Game Week 8, when he has Watford and he's got a few other good fixtures coming up besides the United one, I still think he's a good option. And I would rather have him over Greenwood at this moment in time. But of course, Jota with Firmino coming back, that will be a bit of an issue. It was interesting to see, though. Firmino came on for Curtis Jones and Jota stayed on the pitch. So that was interesting. Keep CR7 for Game Week 7 or wait till Game Week 9? Yeah, there's no real rush to get rid of Ronaldo. You could keep him for Game Week 7, but by Game Week 8 or 9, you can get rid of him. Bruno penalty missed and Salah's 1 goal miss spoiled my game week. My wildcard point also now 44 will add extra 10 points, so 54, and Duffy will play 1 player remaining. It's not the worst, and with the wildcard, I always say this, it's about the long term. It's not how you do in the week straight after you play it. I've had instances where straight after I play it, I do really poorly, but if I'm patient and I stick to those picks, they end up paying off in terms of, my patience. Rudiger or Alonso for week 7. If you just want someone nailed completely, I'd just go for Rudiger, but Alonso, assuming he starts, is more likely to get a big score than Rudiger. So that's something I'm considering. I'm going to show you now, actually. Alonso, for sure, is something I'm considering, but if not, I'll just go for Rudiger. It depends if I want to be a bit more bold or if I just want someone safe who I think will play for Chelsea. Chilwell should be coming back into the mix. When will he do so? I'm not too sure, but that will be interesting. Shaw out or Bamford out? Only 1 free transfer. I would wait until the press conferences and then make a final decision. If Bamford's fit, I'd definitely get rid of Shaw, even if Shaw is making the game. 37 with Sanchez, Tierney and Jimenez to play. Not the worst in the world, and I think all of them could do something in the fixtures to come. Should I take a hit to get rid of Torres, and who could I bring in with a budget of 7.8? Yeah, Torres is an interesting one because he's just not going to play every single game and he's a rotation risk. And City have some tough fixtures. Well, at least they have a tough upcoming fixture now. Then the fixture run is really good. But look, you have to make a decision. If you get rid of him now, there's no point getting him back in when you've just taken him out for a hit. So if you are settled on getting rid of him, I'd be getting Rafinha. If you want someone long-term, and this is something I talked about even in yesterday's stream, the only kind of doubt I put across that is that he is an injury risk and he might not even start in Game Week 6, but I did expect him to. Hi, Mount or Benrama? I still prefer Benrama, and Mount is injured as well. Wait, you played Foster instead of Sanchez? I did. I put my final team on Twitter and the community tab. I made a few changes and I made 2 free transfers and I got rid of Tony and Brownhill for Richardson and Sarr. And in the end, not the worst transfers in the world. Bruno, oh yeah, I answered that. Alonso expected to be the main man or later will be replaced by Chilwell? At this moment in time, obviously barring and excluding the City game, I would say yes, he's the main left back. But what I think will kind of decide it for me, at least bringing Alonso in ahead of Game Week 7, is what happens in the Champions League midweek. And if Chilwell starts there, then I'll definitely be getting Alonso in. But if Alonso starts, that's where it gets a bit tricky. And it might be Chilwell coming back in and he will start in some of these easier games. And once again, I think I was talking about this earlier. Alonso has started, I think, 54% of the games under Tuchel, and Chilwell has started the other 46%. And it's obviously a bit skewed now because of the City game, and Alonso started yet again. But that was the stat before that game. And look, I think Chilwell will get some games. It's just a matter of when. And still, both good assets, but it's just so risky. And if you are doubling up on Chelsea defence, it's not the end of the world. You can just get Alonso for that kind of higher upside, higher risk, and getting Rudiger alongside him, so you can cover Chelsea pretty well there. Yeah, I also answered your question, Car. Best midfielders to go for below 7 million? Rafinha for me, long term, and this is something I've been talking about before. Ismaila Sarr's good, at least for this game week. I'm not too sure about I'd say the Liverpool game, for example, and a few other fixtures like potentially Arsenal, Man United, etc. But still, a good option. Gray's good up until game week 12, but I would mainly be looking at Rafinha. And if you want someone cheaper, I think Gallagher with the fixtures long term is a good choice. From game week 8, I'm going Cancelo, Rudiger and Alonso. That's a good choice. I would like all of them, to be honest, in my team. Hey Dylan, I just joined your stream. Has your bonus points been added? Not on screen, so not what you see here with the team, but in terms of on the left hand side of your screen with my kind of rank updates, that is what is updated according to livefpl.net, which is obviously a very good site. And I know there's kind of been this discussion recently of accounts being hacked, but if you put your team ID, there's no way you get hacked that way. It's when you put your password and email on a third party website. Who starts over Trent, Livramento, Cody or Veltman in a back three? I would mainly be looking at Cody, to be honest. Livramento plays Chelsea, so I wouldn't be going for him. So I'd definitely go for Cody out of those lot, looking at the fixture. 37 with Sanchez, Tierney and Jimenez, that's good. I have 43 points with 3 more to play. Is that good? I think so, mate. I've got 44 and 1 left, and I'm reasonably happy considering how this week has gone. So I think that's a decent score. 30 points plus 9, got Sanchez, Gallagher to play. That's not the worst. That's 2 players left, 39. Yeah, I think that's better than average in my opinion. Very bad game week. Yeah, mate, it is, but most people have a similar team, so it's not the end of the world. I bought Townsend in for Brownhill and it paid off. That's a fantastic transfer. And Townsend's someone I haven't really talked about, but there you go. That's why sometimes backing your own gut, backing your own decisions can pay off. You don't always have to listen to what other people say. Even if they make videos or live streams, they could be wrong about someone or something. So that's a great transfer. What to do with Torres? I would make a decision. I'd either accept the benching headaches that you're going to have and just keep him. And I think he can do really well in some of these easier games coming up from game week 8 onwards. But if you just want someone who plays 90 minutes like Salah, like Rafinha, I just make a like-for-like switch. If you don't have Rafinha already, I probably would make the switch. But Torres would be still tempting from game week 8 onwards. I'm doing Rudiger and Alonso on a wild card. Very good, Mark. I'd be doing something similar. Harry Kane, asked Patel. I think he's going to score tomorrow, but he's not someone I'm going to think about at the moment. I need to see more from Spurs. Is it worth to have both Lukaku and Ronaldo? I think so, if you can make a balanced team overall, but I don't see the need to have both because Ronaldo has tough fixtures coming up. You saw how poor United were today, and they are very inconsistent. And for 12.6, 12.7 million, you don't want to have someone who you're not going to think of captaining for maybe 5-6 game weeks. So you can always make the switch back to Lukaku and then vice versa. Jota out or short out? I would probably say short out. If you're looking long term, if you want just one transfer looking up until game week 8, then wildcarding, then you could just get rid of Jota and get someone with attacking upside like Rafinha, for example. Let's see. I'll try go through these questions quickly. Apologies if I've missed any of yours. Jota could have easily gotten 10 more points again today. 38 points with Marcel Duffy left. Weird week once again. Yeah, this is the weirdest week yet, to be honest, because you have these players like Rafinha, like Salah, who are popular amongst the community, who did well, but even then, they're not that highly owned. But yeah, what a crazy week. And of course, some very good games like Leeds versus West Ham, and also what we just saw with Liverpool-Brentford. Yeah, Jota could have scored hella points. Yeah, it's the same old story with him, to be honest, and he could always get double digits, but he's always kind of stuck on 7-8 if he actually does score. He just misses so many chances. 44 points with Jimenez, Duffy and Sanchez to play captain Ronaldo. Yeah, but this is the thing. I still think it's a good decision to captain Ronaldo. You just didn't get the result, and that's decent, 44 points, and you've got 3 players left who could all do well. And if Brighton keep a clean sheet, you're going to be easily into the 50s, so that's not too bad. Wildcard soon, yeah, Lipok, I am considering it probably in game week 8, maybe not in game week 7 because City do play Liverpool and it's a bit of an awkward time to wildcard. Foster, Sanchez, Trent, Alonso, Cody, Janssen, Ayling, Salah, Sarr, Jota, Gallagher, Brownhill, Antonio Bamford, Tony, 6.5 million in the bank. We'll do Tony to Lukaku next. That's a fantastic move, to be honest, and yeah, you can wildcard in game week 8, and if not, maybe a bit later. Yo, do you think Alonso and Rudiger on wildcard with Lukaku? I think so. If you want a triple up in Chelsea defence, I'd either go for that or replace maybe Alonso or Rudiger with Christensen. That's what I'd probably do as my Chelsea triple up, especially with Reece James out. I have Keane, Sarr, Obafemi, Virginia, Canos, Jota, Shaw. Should I wildcard? You could maybe hold out for one more week, and if Shaw, for example, is fine, then yeah, you could just save it for one more week and then wildcard in game week 8. But I'd probably look to wildcard very soon, so whether this week or next week, just be open-minded about that, but it probably is worth it. Also, is it worth the hit to take Rafinha for Jota and just changing Gray to anyone in that range with the cash because of his tough games? I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't be taking a hit. Obviously, if it's a like-for-like replacement, just getting rid of Jota and getting Rafinha, I can understand that. But even then, I think Jota can still tick along nicely and is one of the best assets around his price. Obviously, he's very frustrating to own, but still, you would suspect there's one game where he's finally going to deliver what he actually deserves, or at least what his underlying stats suggest. Lukaku for Ronaldo and Rudiger for sure. 2 free transfers, or just wait next game week? I would definitely do that defender transfer. Lukaku for Ronaldo, yeah, that's also another good transfer on paper. Obviously, I still back Ronaldo to do well. You don't have to get rid of him. But yeah, I probably would be getting rid of him by game week 8 or 9 anyway. So if you're ahead of the curve there, it's not the worst thing in the world, even if it does backfire in game week 7. I have Sanchez, Duffy and White to play, hoping for 3 clean sheets with maybe some bonus points. I wouldn't mind if White keeps a clean sheet, even if he's on my bench. But yeah, I really hope that Sanchez and Duffy don't. Kovacic or Rafinha? Definitely Rafinha, mate. Kovacic, yeah, he's not going to be the worst option in the world, and he's only 5.2 million, but Rafinha's just going to give you more points, simple as. Wildcarding in game week 8, get Chris Wood for a 1-week punt in game week 7. Yeah, I think that's a great shout against Norwich. Definitely anyone against Norwich, just go for them. Torres, keep or sell? I'd personally say sell, but from game week 8 onwards, a lot of people are going to be tempted by him, and he can do really well in some of these fixtures and even get double digits again, and then everyone thinks about getting him in, and then Pep Roulette happens. So it's the same old story. If you can stomach the Pep Roulette, then I think he is worth keeping long term. But the kind of manager I am, or at least kind of player I am, I probably would consider just getting rid of him. If I had him, that's what I'd probably do. Will Zaha haul this week? What do you think? I don't know about a massive haul, but he has a good record against Brighton. It's something I've talked about beforehand, and I think he might get a goal. If Palace score, I think Zaha will be involved, but I wouldn't be too sure. With Reece James's unfortunate injury today, Christensen looks like a very appealing option to get into the Chelsea defence for only 5 million. Great shout. And yeah, Christensen, the good thing about him is he either plays or doesn't play at all. None of these one-pointers really most of the time. And let's wait and see what the kind of official news is with Reece James. But yeah, if he is out for a prolonged period of time, Christensen's looking very good. But then again, there could be Chalobah coming in for some game weeks, especially with this easy fixture run and Champions League and other competitions. But yeah, that's a great shout. I'm left with a tough decision to choose between Ayling or Semedo or another Wolves defender. Who is the best? Yeah, I would get rid of Ayling, and yeah, I'd keep Semedo or any other Wolves defender. I think Semedo or Saiss, and also I'd say Marçal, they're the best Wolves options. My personal favourite is probably Marçal because of the value, but then again, you never know with him. He could maybe lose his spot at some point. Insane week, don't you think? Of course, mate, definitely. But it is what it is. We're going to have some weeks where it's really good for us, and sometimes it's just really poor. Are you keeping Jota for game week 7? Not officially confirmed yet, but what I'm thinking of doing is getting rid of Shaw and getting a Chelsea defender. I've been talking about Chelsea defenders for a long time now, and I finally want to get them in ahead of their good fixture run. But either way, one thing you could say about this is if Shaw is available for game week 7, I could make a more, I'd say, a move with higher upside. So maybe getting rid of Jota and getting Rafinha in, that could be the transfer to go for. And then I could just, play White, Trent and Cody, for example. If not someone else, maybe Shaw himself. And then I can just go with Rafinha instead of Jota. So what I'm thinking of doing at this moment in time is either getting Alonso or Rudiger in for Shaw. And if not, just any player really for Jota, and I'd be going for Rafinha. But let's wait and see what his injury is. Once again, he is flagged, and that is very frustrating, but I think he's a good player. And look at Decore, by the way, right up there in terms of midfielders. I don't expect him to continue it long term, but of course he's been doing really well, and fair play to any of you who do have him and have been starting him. Look at his ownership. That is incredible, to be honest. I'm very surprised by that. Oh no, Martinez needs to be stopped. All that shit talking he does before penalty kicks getting in the goalkeeper's or kicker's face. Well, I mean, I'm going to be biased, but I actually like it because 1, it's against Manchester United, and 2, he's done it before for Argentina, and it's very, very beneficial. So I actually love it. And of course, if he's on your team, you probably would appreciate it more. But yeah, if he did that against my team, I definitely would be very pissed off. Yeah, wait, who is spamming the chat? Yeah, I didn't see that. Apologies. I probably should add moderators. That's something I need to think about. So thank you for those who brought that to my attention. We have pretty much the same team. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have to keep saying this. I've said this even from my first draft video, believe it. the template is so damn strong. So yeah, a lot of people say that, oh, we have the same team, maybe 1 or 2 differences. I mean, it's literally part and parcel nowadays of FPL. Jota or Benrama? That's a great question. I would still prefer Jota because of the fixtures, but Benrama's a great choice. I mean, look at his price. He had a great performance today. Ignore the points that he got. Still very good option. Thoughts on Bernardo Silva for Wildcard Game Week 8? He's a fantastic player in real life, but he's not someone I would consider as a fantasy asset because he'll occasionally get an assist, maybe one game where he gets a hat-trick of assists or maybe a goal or 2, but he's not going to do that consistently for you. I think Salah, Rafinha, even Jota, Torres when he plays, Greenwood when, well, at least without Ronaldo, I think they're all better options. That's just to name some examples. So not for me. Between Jota, Shaw and Gray, which 2 should I sell or should I keep them? If you're wildcarding in Game Week 8, then I would sell Jota. Otherwise, if you're looking long-term and you're not looking to wildcard, I would definitely keep Jota. And I'd probably consider getting rid of Gray if, obviously, you are wildcarding in Game Week 8. So that would kind of be the simple matter. If you're looking for something short-term, get rid of the midfielders, keep Shaw. But obviously, just wait and see what the injury news is with Luke Shaw. Is he going to make Game Week 7? And, of course, if he's missing out, you might as well get rid of him. Hey, man, what do you think about getting Alonso? I've been very tempted. I almost did it this week ahead of the Manchester City game, and I'm glad I didn't just yet, but he's still a fantastic option. The kind of main problem I have is that I still expect Chilwell to get some minutes, and when that happens, Alonso is going to be a very frustrating player from time to time, but he's that type of player. He's very explosive, but he has that kind of downside to him. Rudiger's just going to be that kind of nailed defender who will tick along nicely. Alonso or Cancelo Diaz? That's a really tough question. I mean, if you look at the fixtures from now on, you'd say Alonso, but I'd probably say Cancelo, so long as you have Rudiger. But I would definitely get a Chelsea defender. Don't go without them, in my opinion. Try to have both. Transferred in Keane 3 game weeks ago and he got 1 clean sheet. Should I hold on to him or transfer him out? Yeah, I mean, Everton, I probably would transfer him out. But yeah, that's obviously depending on if you have other kind of priorities in your team in terms of transfers. Antonio for Bamford and Rafinha for Torres for a -4. Oof. Yeah, I mean, that looks good. But if Bamford's fit, you probably wouldn't want to get rid of him, even for Antonio. And you look at the fixtures for West Ham soon. They're pretty poor, in my opinion. Rafinha for Torres, I'd definitely do that anyway. So maybe just make 1 free transfer and keep Bamford. But just wait and see. Don't make the transfer yet. Wait until the press conferences. Keep Tony or sell, and who to buy. If you're wildcarding soon, I'd probably sell. So you can always bring him back in on the wildcard. But if you're looking to have this team long term, then I would keep Tony because I think from game week 10 to 12 he can do really well. And even against West Ham and Leicester, I think Tony could actually do really well in those fixtures too. Jota to Son, thoughts? Once again with Son, I need to see more from Spurs in terms of consistency and attacking potency because they're the type of team who could score 1 goal and just sit on that. And around 10 million, Son is pretty much in essence a premium player and you want more from Spurs. I bought Doucouré on a wildcard, almost got Townsend. They're both good options anyway, and they both did well. I would prefer Townsend going forward, but Doucouré has been really good so far. Yeah, Townsend at 5.4 million is a gift too. Yeah, that's true. He's someone I really haven't mentioned, and that's why sometimes some of these options you never expect to do well, they just do the business. -4 for Greenwood out for Rafinha. If possible, maybe not, but obviously if it's a free transfer, I would probably go for it. On a wildcard at the moment, which trio do you think is best? Salah, Rudiger and Doucouré, or Grealish, Tierney and Douglas Luiz? I'd say Salah, Rudiger and Doucouré. Douglas Luiz, he's just a bench fodder option. You don't want him starting in your team. Yeah, I agree, Yusuf. Keep Tony if you're looking long-term anyway. Jota a better stay than Greenwood, I guess. I think long-term he is. Maybe not Game Week 7 specifically. I think Greenwood has the fixture to outperform him. But yeah, just not really too encouraged by what I've seen from Greenwood since Ronaldo's come in. Schmeichel's pissing me off. Yeah, he would be pissing me off too. And Leicester defence, I just don't trust them. That's why I kind of stay clear from them. I want to be targeting Liverpool, Chelsea and Manchester City defence really. Who would you suggest, Cancelo or Diaz? At this moment in time, definitely Cancelo. Should I sell Torres? I probably would, but there's no kind of bad thing, I'd say, of keeping him long term. Keep Grealish. He's a good player, of course, and he can do well for you, but I probably wouldn't have him myself. Then again, there is not really a big reason to get rid of him. So it depends. If you don't have Rafinha or Salah, for example, you could arguably go to one of them. There's always these other options that are popping about, like Gallagher, like Townsend. There's so many. Gray, Decore. Had Rafinha and Jota, but moved for Benrama and Gray. Yeah, look, these things can happen. Jota and Rafinha, they are both very similar. They both do well. They tick along nicely. I think Rafinha's a bit more consistent, but they could also do so much better. Yeah, John Doe, I already answered your question about Tony. There's no need to spam the chat. Ronaldo versus Lukaku next 10 games. Then I'd probably say Lukaku, but I'd say from game week 14-15, I would be bringing Ronaldo in once again because that fixture run is exceptional. Go double Chelsea defence or Rudiger and Cancelo? Good question. I think there's merit in both strategies. And if I had double Chelsea defence, I would still be inclined to get a City defender as well and go big at the back. But if you had to pick one, I'd probably go for one of each. Because City, at least in the underlying stats, are far better than Chelsea so far this season, especially defensively. But Chelsea's defence is still great and they barely concede. Both of the goals they've conceded are against Liverpool and City so far, which is just crazy. Jesus, he's a good option for some weeks where the differentials kind of shine, but he's not someone you can rely on consistently. He's not always going to play, so that's why I probably try to avoid him. With City, I'll be looking at Diaz and Cancelo. Game week 31, I still expect Chilwell to start. Yeah, I mean, that's why sometimes just go for Alonso and ignore what people say or even your own doubts about him. Should I get Lukaku for Vardy for a hit? No, I'd just keep Vardy for this week and get Lukaku next week. Why is his game week points 44 when it's actually 31? It's because of bonus points, mate. Let's see, actually. There's 38 actually on screen. But yeah, I'll get 6 bonus points. Double Chelsea defence or Rudiger and Cancelo? Yeah, once again, I'd probably go for Rudiger and Cancelo, but double Chelsea defence is fine. 44 points. Ronaldo disappoint? Yeah, he's been very disappointing, at least this game week. But, you know, he can't perform every single week. It's impossible, even for these monsters like Ronaldo. And I still expect him to do well against Everton. I brought in Edouard this week. Think he might start, planning to keep long-term. Thoughts on him? He's someone I kept mentioning as a replacement for Bamford long-term. Him and Armstrong are intriguing options. He's not someone I'd want right now, but I can see why you got him, and I think long-term he could be a good choice. And hopefully he can keep up that form that he showed against Spurs. Ronaldo or Lukaku or both? From this point onwards, I'd say Lukaku, but still, if you have Ronaldo, you don't have to get rid of him just yet. You can get rid of him in game week 8. I've got Jota, Greenwood, Jota. Oh, yeah, Jota twice. Benrama, Salah and Torres in midfield. Rafinha in for who? If you are wildcarding in game week 8, just get rid of Jota. Otherwise, to be honest, I'd just get rid of Torres. That's what I would personally do. Yeah, I'd probably Torres. Hey, do you think it's worth getting in Lukaku for Vardy for a hit? Nah, I'd keep Vardy. Why not Vardy? Guaranteed minutes and gets us points. This is the thing. Obviously, I'm not saying no to Vardy for you. He's a good option, and I actually highlighted him in my preview talking about how good of an option he is for the captaincy, and he's a great option for the next few game weeks. If you want a replacement for Bamford, he was one of the kind of standout ones. The reason why I'm probably not going to go for him is because I backed Chelsea to do exceptionally well in this fixture run they have, and I would rather have Lukaku. But, you know, maybe I will be tempted by Vardy at some point, and he is so consistent, and he's just been ticking along nicely. No one's been kind of noticing him, and he's doing so well, and he's a fantastic differential in my opinion compared to the kind of Ronaldos of this world. So Yunchu out, Rudiger in, Bamford out. Who to get in under 9 million for a -4? Yeah, I mean, under 9 million, if you don't have Antonio already, I'd still get him in. But otherwise, I'd be looking at, say, Maximan for the next few game weeks. And even Maupai, I'd mainly be looking at, say, Maximan though. And as for long-term, I'd be considering Armstrong and Edouard. I have 2 free transfers. Should I go Torres to Sarr, Gray, and then upgrade Digne Shaw to Diaz? I probably would. Or if not, go for Cancelo for a bit more attacking upside. I would expect him to continue to start. Why didn't you consider Diaz and Cancelo? I have considered them. It's just right now I've had other transfers to make. I wanted Sarr in this week, for example, and I thought it was a bit of an awkward time to bring in any Chelsea or City players when they faced each other, but I've been wanting their players for a long time. What I am thinking of is why didn't I start with any of them? That's another question in itself. With Chelsea, I think it's because of the fixtures, and with Manchester City, it's because of rotation. I didn't expect Cancelo to suddenly be nailed on again. If you looked at the end of last season, Zinchenko was the first choice left back and Walker was the first choice right back. And now all of a sudden we've kind of reversed back to what was happening, I'd say, from December to February, where Cancelo was a fantastic asset and he's nailed. As for Diaz, of course, I always knew he'd be starting every single game. But then again, you know, around 6 million, you could get a bit more attacking potential from Shaw. that was still a mistake, of course, and Shaw hasn't been good. Do you think Alonso is nailed in Chelsea, or that it can happen at some point Shaw will get his place back? I'd say he's fairly nailed at this moment in time, but I don't expect him to be throughout the rest of the season. I think Shaw will come in. I just don't know when. But that's kind of... Some people have not gotten Alonso in for that same reason, and he's still done really well since game week 1. So if you are willing to risk it and you have good defensive depth, I'd say go for it. Get Alonso in. Greenwood for Rafinha, I think that's a good move, but Greenwood can do well in game week 7. How many points are you going to be on when bonus points are added? 44, mate, as it says on screen. If you count up the kind of players on your screen right now with the points there, I'd be on 38. But with the bonus points coming in, I'm on 44 and I'm around 45,000 in the world, but I expect that to drop significantly. Sell Shaw. Yeah, but because I'm going to be wildcarding potentially in game week 8, I am considering doing Jota to Rafinha or someone else. I'll be looking at the other options as well. And I could always play White instead of Shaw if he does miss out. So it's not the end of the world. But if I'm looking long term, definitely a Chelsea or City defender, especially Chelsea in game week 7, coming in for Shaw is a no-brainer. Team is fucked. Thank you, mate. Thank you very much. What Chelsea defenders look nailed? Rudiger and Azpilicueta. And at this moment in time, I'd say Alonso, but that could easily change. Vardy, Lukaku, Antonio, Salah viable? For sure. I mean, I've never said Vardy isn't a viable option, for example, and the others, of course, they are. Yeah, you can always just go for them, and Vardy is significantly cheaper than Ronaldo, for example. Who is good? Greenwood replacement. Depends who you don't have already. I think long-term Rafinha, but if you do have him already, then maybe just go for Sarr or one of these other options. Gallagher long-term is also a good choice. And, of course, these Everton players up until game week 12, like Townsend or even Gray, they're good choices as well. Rudiger or Alonso? If you want someone nailed, just go for Rudiger. But for attacking upside, especially in a game week where you might be wildcarding in game week 8, yeah, just go for Alonso, but both good options. Is it better to diversify your players, different teams to target the bonus point structure? That's a good question. I think it is to a degree, but you can always still double up on attacks. Benrama and Antonio were very good for the first 2 game weeks. And then you look at Salah and Jota, they can also be a good double up in the attack and midfield. So I like to have a balance and, you know, I'd say kind of covering different teams, especially the top teams. And that's why on a wild card, I'll be getting Chelsea and City players in potentially. But yeah, I think 1 or 2 double ups doesn't hurt. I wouldn't be filling your team in with triple ups of United and Liverpool like I've been doing long term. It's just something I was looking at for the opening set of game weeks. On a massive red, relying Livramento, Jimenez and Sanchez, I think they could improve your situation a little bit. So it's not the end of the world, to be honest. Hopefully you do well. Do you think Bruno's price will go down to 11.8 anytime this week? I think with the fixtures, yes. And a lot of people will be kind of rage transferring him out because of the penalty miss. And yeah, I think it could happen. It's not a guarantee though. Yeah, once again, as for the best replacement for Greenwood, I'd definitely Rafinha if you don't have him already. And if you do have Rafinha, then I'd be looking at, I'd say, Sarr. And Jota, of course, look, he's a good choice. The problem with him is his minutes will still probably be, I'd say, slightly under risk with Firmino coming back into the side. And he is very, very wasteful. Sarr bonus points? Yeah, I think he's getting 2 bonus points in the end. I think FPL put he's getting 1, but I think it's 2 in the end. Yeah, Sarr 2 bonus points, Maximan 3. No, my team. Yeah, but I mean, even my team, arguably big boy. Big boy? Yeah, big boy. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, a lot of people are in the same situation, so you might say your team is trash, but it could actually do really well next week. I think this week has just been freakish. If you have a lot of injury doubts, that's another story. But we're mainly going to be wildcarding very soon, so it's not the end of the world. Is Greenwood for Townsend a good replacement? I think so, but I wouldn't be getting rid of Greenwood for Townsend this week, for example. I think Greenwood could still do well. But long term, I think Townsend is probably better up until game week 12 anyway. But for this week specifically, no. Yeah, where's Sarr's 2 bonus points? It will be coming soon, I think. And if not, he's going to get 1, and it is what it is. I'll probably be on 43 points instead. Shall we wait for UCL matches before making any transfers? Yeah, I'd just wait for the lineups to make the transfers, if anything. And if not, just make him on the day. You don't have to rush him. Remember, the price rises for UCL Fantasy happen after match day 3. So that's not an issue. You got yours yet? Not on screen. So if the 2 bonus points come in, Sarr will be on 9 points overall. But yeah, let's see. Let me refresh the page and see what happens there. Yeah, no, nothing. Yeah, I think the kind of bonus points will kind of kick in, I'd say around 9 PM. It tends to be around that time. Is there any good option in Man City and midfielders forwards, or we shouldn't get any of them because of rotation risks? There are good options. De Bruyne, of course, but it's just, I don't think it's necessary to go for him when there are so many other premium options. Ferran Torres, despite obviously his rotation risk, he is very good when he starts. Grealish is ticking along nicely, but then you look at Mahrez and all the others, the rotation there is unbelievable, even Jesus, so that's why I just stay clear. I would rather go for the City defenders. 2 Chelsea defenders I should target, budget 11k. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably say Rudiger, or Alonso and Christensen in your case. I'm not sure, I don't think you can afford both of them. You'd be a few, I'd say 0.4 million off for getting Rudiger and Alonso. That would be the ideal one, but if not, just go for Christian's back, definitely. And he could be back in Game Week 7. Let's wait and see what happens there. Is Doucouré good? He's been doing really well so far, but I'm just not convinced by him at this moment in time. Cody will get you a hat-trick. There's no chance about that, Sky Champion. No doubt. If he even scored a goal, I would actually just celebrate that. But yeah, I'm not sure. Why not wildcard Game Week 7? Because Liverpool play Manchester City, and also, for example, have Greenwood, who could do well this week. Obviously, look, there's no right or wrong. You could wildcard in Game Week 7. It doesn't make too much of a difference, but another week's worth of data, I think, as well. It does play a part. And also with the Champions League happening, I just think I would probably rather go with Game Week 8. Rafinha injured. It looks like he's got a hip injury. He is flagged. Let's wait and see what happens there. Is Christensen nailed? Not completely. He's going to play most games, I'd say 60-70%. But if Reece James is out for a prolonged period of time, then Christensen's going to be even more nailed than before. Just kind of be wary of Chalobah and other defenders for Chelsea. 3 good strikers or 5 good midfielders? That's a good question. I don't think there's necessarily a wrong choice there, but I'd probably lean towards 4 midfielders and 3 strikers at this moment in time. Hey mate, if you go on the fantasy status page and look at match points, it says provisional not completed, thanks. Yeah, I think there was kind of an issue where Salah had 1 bonus point, and that's what was reported by FPL status and the FPL page. But if you go on the website, Salah has 2 bonus points, so let's wait and see there. I think there's going to be slight changes there, and Salah is either going to get 1 bonus point or 2. But yeah, within the hour we should get some news. Should I bring Azpilicueta? He's a good shout. The reason why I don't go for him is because he's 6 million and you could just get Rudiger's a bit cheaper and nearly as nailed. And then again, you can get Marcos Alonso for slightly cheaper as well. And he's just getting so many attacking returns, or attacking potential at least. Azpilicueta in UCL Fantasy is a different story. He's 5 million, but in FPL, I would rather have Alonso and Rudiger. But there's no wrong answer there with Chelsea defenders. Captain for next week. Looking at my team, I'm probably going to be leaning towards Ronaldo because Salah does face Manchester City. But Antonio against Brentford, if Brentford play the way they did against Liverpool and it's an open-ended game, then I'd be very tempted to captain Antonio. But other than that, I don't have too many options if I'm being honest. Is Rafinha going to play Game Week 7? I think so. I said the same for Game Week 5 and 6 and it turned out to be true. But maybe if this hip injury is kind of persistent and they need to just settle him down, get him a rest, he might miss out, but I think he will be ready. Let's wait and see for the kind of press conferences from Bielsa and the other managers. Which defender is best to bring in? Maximum 5.7? I'd say Rudiger for sure for me. Midfield replacement for Bruno. I have Rafinha, Salah there. Yeah, you got 3 of the best options there already. Yeah, that's a tough one because Jota I wouldn't be bringing in this week. Yeah, that's a good question. Torres, not for me because of the rotation risk. I would probably be looking at... That's a good question. Jesus. I need to think about that one. Jesus Christ. Maybe instead of just a like-for-like midfield replacement, I mean, you could just downgrade him to a really cheap midfielder. So you're looking at one of the Everton players, Gallagher. I think they wouldn't be too bad. I think that's fine. Then you can use that to upgrade one of your attackers to either Lukaku or Vardy. I'm not sure what your team structure is. I'm not sure if you have Ronaldo already, but that's something I would consider. Can you check the fixtures for Leeds, please? All right, the fixtures for Leeds are on screen, and they've got very good fixtures. That's why I was talking about if you have Bamford, just wait for the press conferences, because if he's back, you want him against Watford, Southampton, Wolves and Norwich. That's a good set of fixtures, and Leeds can do well, especially Rafinha and Bamford. I'm just not too sure about the defence. Is 5 at the back now viable for wildcard? Yeah, I think it is. And as for does it offer less flexibility? In a way, there's no set formula though. I think even if you have, let's say for example 1 Liverpool, so Trent Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo and a Chelsea defender, that's fine. And then you can have maybe Livramento and Ben White. That's still a really good defence. You've got good defensive depth there. And if not, you can play 4 at the back some weeks. And if not, yeah, just you can have 4 really kind of, I'd say, expensive or reasonably expensive defenders and then 1 cheap one. I think that's fine, but I probably wouldn't go really big at the back as in have 5 premiums. I wouldn't go that far, but I'd say 3 or 4 is pretty decent. Sure replacement, Alonso or Rudiger. If you're wildcarding in Game Week 8, I would risk it with Alonso, but if you want someone long-term who's set and forget, go for Rudiger. I had Townsend in my bench. Damn, I mean, to be fair, he is playing Norwich. I wouldn't recommend that. Force on Everton and Brighton players for long-term. Do you think they can do well? I think up until Game Week 12, Everton players will, but beyond that, I'm not too sure. And I think when Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison come back, I wouldn't be too keen on Townsend and all these other options, even Demarai Gray potentially, who is still decent, by the way. But yeah, that's what I would say. And as for Brighton, I think their defensive assets are good long-term, so Sanchez, Duffy, Veltman, etc. As for their attackers, I think Maupay is good for the short term, but then you look at the tougher fixtures coming up, and I just don't trust Brighton offensively for a prolonged period of time. So that would be my opinion on that. Add Ronaldo captain and Shaw at the back. Otherwise, good week. 50 points. Sanchez and Livramento to go. Happy to hold rank around 25k. Shaw out for Cancelo before the tonight's increase. I mean, Cancelo is playing Liverpool next. That's why I'd be a bit put off. But then again, you know, he's a good option for the long term. So there's nothing wrong with that. And yeah, Ronaldo captain and Shaw was very disappointing. And it just sums up how this week has been. What other striker to choose after Ronaldo and Antonio? Yeah, Vishal, I talked about this already. I answered your question and I was talking about Vardy and Lukaku, definitely. I'm not sure how much money you have to work with. And also Bamford. If he's back for Game Week 7, don't underestimate him. For the next few Game Weeks, and this is something I was talking about in my deadline stream yesterday, Saint-Maximin and Maupay are good. And if you want a cheap striker long term, I'd be looking at Edouard and Armstrong. Is Chelsea triple defence a good option? I think so, but I would rather go for a double up and have Lukaku up front, but there's nothing wrong with a triple up, but I think you could just go for someone else. Thank you very much, Yusuf, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Bonus points are in, and yeah, you didn't have to send the super chat, but really appreciate you doing that, mate. And yeah, let's load the team. That was actually the team selection. Let's see. So the bonus points are in, so yeah, it tends to be around 8 or 9 p.m. then. There you go. Sar's got the star as well. Very nice, very nice. And there you go. There are the bonus points. Antonio as well, decent. And Salah. Yeah, I mean, most of the popular captaincy shouts, you know, it's not like any of them did really well. But yeah, I mean, you're never going to have, you know, every single week all of your players doing well. This is just kind of one of those low scoring weeks you have to deal with. 66 points for me with the bonus points. Yeah, that's really good. 66 points in a week like this is exceptional. I heard James is out for 4 to 6 weeks. Is this the right info? Keep up the good work. I haven't seen that rumour. Unfortunately, I haven't had time to be checking this, but I would be questioning the source. If it tends to be a reliable source, then yeah, I'd have a bit more faith that it is true. But otherwise, I just take it with a pinch of salt. He could be out for that long, or maybe even just 2 to 3 weeks, but I just wait and see first. Yeah, the bonus points have been added. Thank you very much to all of you who pointed it out, including Yusuf. And wah. Hopefully I said that right. Ronaldo out for Lukaku in Game Week 7. Yeah, and if not Game Week 8, there's no rush there. Should I transfer out Jota now? If you're wildcarding in Game Week 8, I'd probably transfer him out. You don't have to do it just yet, even if there are price rises or whatever. I wouldn't be kind of too worried about that. No problem, Vishal. When the face reveal, it might happen soon, but I don't know. I'm not really, I'd say... there's no need for a face reveal. And of course, you can follow me on Instagram and you'll see my face there. Not that you probably want to. Hi Dylan, what's up, mate? Hope you're doing okay. I have Shaw. I want to get rid of him for Chelsea defender. Any suggestions? And do I do it now if Shaw's price is going to go down? If you're wildcarding in Game Week 8, I'd just go for Alonso. But if you want someone long-term, set and forget, go for Rudiger. 52 points from me, average. Yeah, but I'd say it's better than average this week. Obviously, it's not a great score on paper. But considering the week most people have had, I think it's fairly decent. I had Chilwell since Game Week 1 and he never played. Should I keep or just easily transfer him out? I'd definitely get rid of him. Because even if he does play the occasional game, I just don't think it'll be enough. Got 62 points. Very good score. Very good score, mate. Hey Dylan, should I get James out for Rudiger Cancelo before price changes? Oof, that's a tough one. I'd probably just do James out, Rudiger in. I'd probably do that and then get Cancelo in ahead of Game Week 8. Which defender to bring in ahead of Shaw? I don't have any money in the bank. Probably Rudiger. Wait, let's see. Let me double check that actually, because Rudiger's 5.6. What is Luke Shaw? 5.5? Yeah, he's 5.5. Yeah, that's a tough one because you'd want to have Rudiger or Alonso. I mean, best kind of next set option is Christensen, if you are willing to do that. Use a free transfer for Shaw to Rudiger or Vardy to Lukaku. Shaw to Rudiger. I'd keep Vardy. Is Jota a long-term hold with Bobby back? I don't know about long-term, but he can still be decent for the next 3 to 5 game weeks, for example. Should I transfer out Jota for Rafinha? Already used my wild card. Oof. It's still a good transfer though, and I think long-term Rafinha is probably just more nailed and a better pick potentially, at least up until game week 13, 14, but there's nothing wrong with keeping Jota. Who else do you have in the midfield? That would also kind of play a part in it. If you have Greenwood, I probably would get rid of him instead and keep Jota. Too early, but is the league set for City again? Your thoughts? It's too early. I think them, Chelsea or Liverpool will win the league. And I was talking about this before. I just don't see United winning it. I don't know. They're just so inconsistent. But as for those three, they're all very good. I've got 4-2-4 to play. That's actually pretty decent, Vishal. That's not too bad. What should I fix in my team? Sanchez, Arnold, Shaw, Livramento, Marçal, Andrew, Gallagher, Salah, Doucouré, Gray, Sissoko, Lukaku, Antonio, Ronaldo. 2 free transfers. It's a good team. There's nothing really that screams to me. Probably Shaw out for a Chelsea defender. I think I'd probably do that. And other than, I mean, that's fairly decent. Honestly, Everton midfielders have been doing really good, but Doucouré, Gray long term, I probably wouldn't go for them. So I'd be looking to get rid of one of them for Rafinha, if possible. I'm not sure how much money you have in the bank, but I'd be looking to get Rafinha in the midfield and a Chelsea defender for sure. Shaw out now or wait for the deadline? I'd probably wait for the deadline just in case. It obviously is a team-dependent question. If you are really happy with your lineup and Shaw is the weak link, then just get rid of him and get a Chelsea defender. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you are wildcarding in game week 8, and for example you have Jota, you could move him onto Rafinha, for example, if you don't have him already, or Sarr, and make that kind of more, I'd say, more upside move instead. And that obviously depends if you have enough cover at the back. But there's no right or wrong answer. I am considering getting rid of him, but I might actually just get rid of Jota and get Rafinha in. I'm 1 rank in front of you. Wow, 1 rank. That's insane, to be honest. Bamford versus Liverpool was a nice game, isn't it? Oh, Brentford, Bamford. Yeah, it was a fantastic game. One of the best, if not the best so far this season. And I was pleasantly surprised. I think I put 2-0 for Liverpool. And yeah, I was talking about, I wouldn't be surprised if Brentford scored, but I didn't expect them to score 2 or 3, and that's what they did. Force and Reece James injury, should I get rid of him or keep him? I'd wait for the press conference, but it's not looking good, in my opinion. I'm not too sure if he's going to make it for game week 7, and you could always move him on to Alonso or Rudiger. I think they're better options anyway. Dylan, kudos to your energy and effort for reading every single chat here. No serious FPL YouTuber does this. You are one of a kind. Hope you have your sipper next to you. Thank you, Yogesh. I mean, maybe I'm not a serious FPL manager or YouTuber, but thank you very much, mate. Really appreciate it. And I've got water, not beer, but maybe I'll have beer tomorrow. We'll wait and see. Thank you very much, mate. Anyone in the chat with their advice? Lukaku, Rudiger in for Shaw and Ronaldo, or keep Ronaldo, swap Rudiger and Jimenez for Shaw and Bamford? I'm so torn. Oof. I'd probably get Rudiger in for Shaw, and then maybe next week in game week 8, you could get rid of Ronaldo. Should I keep Reece James? Wait for the press conference, and if it is as we probably predict and he's out, then you could just move him on to any Chelsea defender, Alonso or Rudiger. I'm keen on the Greenwood to Rafinha switch. I'm just a bit concerned about the Brazilian's injury status. Yeah, I'd wait and see with that. That could easily backfire. I was talking about him starting in game week 5 and 6, but my luck could run out and he doesn't start in game week 7, which is what I expect. But let's wait and see, because this hip injury seems to be persistent and it might not go away anytime soon, especially if he never has a break. And thank you to everyone who is here. We have over 300 people still. Really appreciate it. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here, and share this video around with anyone who loves FPL, UCL Fantasy and football. I'll be making some UCL Fantasy videos very soon, and also the deadline stream for UCL Fantasy Match Day 2 will be on the Tuesday, so tune in for that. And also follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you wish, Dylan_RCM. I post my teams there. You can send in your teams as well for future rating my teams or rating your team videos. And you can also just discuss football, FPL and UCL Fantasy once again with me there. So thank you very much for everyone for tuning in. And it's 8:30, so we've been going for an hour already. damn, and we did actually do a deadline stream yesterday. Also went very well, so appreciate everyone who tuned in for that too. Oh no, here we go with the voice cracks. That is my team on screen, and yeah, very interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. Not the greatest, but I'll take that small green arrow so far. I will expect me, I don't know about the rank, probably 60, 70k by the end of the week, maybe even lower. Depends what happens, I think, in that Wolves versus Southampton game, and if Brighton keep a clean sheet. If they do, I'm probably in the mud, at least compared to where I am now. Thank you very much for everyone tuning in. Rudiger, Alonso. If you're wildcarding in Game Week 8, get Alonso in. If you want someone long-term, set and forget. You're not going to worry about their minutes. Just go for Rudiger, but they're both great options. Greenwood out, have Rafinha, Benrama. Who out? Max 6.8 million. Yeah, I'd probably bring in Salah potentially, even though I'm not a big fan of his fixtures after Game Week 7. I think long-term, if you just look at how good of an asset he is, he's just someone to consider. So he is what I'd probably go for in your situation. Torres to Rafinha, I'd probably do that, mate. Why Zaha? Why Zaha? Well, I think Zaha can do well in Game Week 6, but I'm not going to be getting Zaha in. Rudiger equals less RNG. Alonso, higher ceiling. Yeah, I agree. I just think Rudiger is nailed and he'll tick over nicely. But then again, Alonso has been nailed so far this season. So, yeah. Good enough fixtures, yeah. I have the same team, have Semedo, not Cody. Semedo, obviously, yeah, I'd say he offers more bonus points potential and attacking returns. But then again, he's very, very, I'd say, inconsistent is one word. And also, I'd say, just wasteful sometimes. But of course, I'd probably rather have Semedo than Cody. Should I take a hit for Greenwood and short to Benrama and Mbeumo, Gallagher and Rudiger? Or should I roll the transfer? Ooh. I probably, look, if you can just make one free transfer, then short to Rudiger's fine. I think Greenwood could do alright in this game week, despite obviously his underlying stats being pretty poor. I still think he can do well this week, but yeah, I can see why you want to take a hit. I'd probably just do Rudiger in for sure. Hey Dylan, where are you based in? I'm based in London, mate. Based in London. Benrama out for Rafinha. I would keep Benrama ahead of this week, but Rafinha, of course, long-term is a better option. Should I replace Shaw with Trent? I already have Rudiger. Yeah, I mean, this is not really the week you'd want to get Trent in. So what I would say is wait. If you're wildcarding in Game Week 8, then I would maybe consider doing Shaw out for another Chelsea defender, potentially. Maybe Marcos Alonso, someone with a lot of attacking potential. But if you want someone long-term, then just get Trent in, even if he faces Man City. Wildcard next game week, yeah, that's what I'm probably going with. Shaw to Rudiger or Van Dijk to Rudiger? Probably Shaw to Rudiger. But Van Dijk, I would rather have Trent, of course, but he's still a decent choice. I feel like 5.5, 6.5 midfielders this year are the way to go. It's looking like it, and also same price bracket, but for defenders too. I'm on 34 points and Gallagher and Sanchez are my only hope to at least reach 45. It's not the worst. I think they can both do alright, but then again, you know, if one does well, the other one might not, if you know what I mean. But if you hit 40 from that situation, it's not the worst. Jota 2, I'd say Rafinha if you don't have him already. Any City assets worth bringing on a wild card? Cancelo and Diaz, definitely. They are the top two for me. Richarlison, out for who? Antonio, obviously, if you don't have him already, that's kind of an easy one. If you have enough money, Vardy's a good choice. Lukaku. Obviously, Ronaldo's good for Game Week 7, but I wouldn't be bringing him in now. And other than that, I'd probably be looking at, say, Maximan and Malpai. Same names I talked about in my deadline stream. And also, long-term, cheap striker, Edouard or Armstrong. Should I get Lukaku to Ronaldo this week or wait one more? Depends on your team's situation, but you don't have to take a hit, for example, to make that move now. And keeping Ronaldo against Everton, I think that's pretty decent. Son and Gallagher tomorrow will be clutch. I hope not. I hope Son flops. I hope Arsenal win that game. And I don't mind if Gallagher scores, actually. You know, hopefully Gallagher does well for you. If you already have Rudiger, would you take a duo of Ben White plus Vardy or Alonso plus Jimenez, 0 in the bank? That's a great question. That's a... Jesus. I think for the short term... Oh, that's a tough question. If you're looking up until Game Week 14 and you're going to stick to this team, go for Alonso and Jimenez. But I think for the next few game weeks, maybe Ben White and Vardy's better. So it depends on if you're wildcarding soon, you know, what your play is there. That will have a big impact on that. Should I captain Salah instead of Ronaldo? I mean, there's nothing wrong with captaining Salah. He's so consistent. It's just he faces Man City. That's what puts me off. At the moment, I'm going for Ronaldo. and I probably will stick with that, at least at the moment. Why don't you have any City players? Because of the rotation at the beginning of the season, I had other transfers to make, but I definitely want to be getting the defenders in, like Cancelo and Diaz. I'll probably be looking at Cancelo, keeping Trent and adding Alonso and or Rudiger, potentially, and going big at the back. But look, who would have thought that Cancelo would suddenly be nailed all of a sudden once again, when last season he lost his spot, I'd say from February, March onwards, and Zinchenko was the main left back. What led to you making FPL content? I just enjoy, talking about football, obviously engaging with the community, and just making different types of videos about Champions League and Premier League. That's probably the main reason why, to be honest. If I didn't enjoy it, I probably wouldn't be doing it, to be honest. Should I get Trent out? Bought him in last game week for a hit. Regret it now? I wouldn't be getting rid of Trent. If you just got him in for a hit, yeah, he did really poorly against Brentford, but he's a fantastic option long term. Should I sell out Arnold and invest in the midfielders? I would still keep Arnold, honestly. I think he will outscore anyone around his price or below in the midfielders. Play with Ronaldo and Lukaku or only one of the two? Play with Ronaldo and Lukaku. I'd definitely start both of them if that's what you're saying, but I'm guessing that's not what you're asking. If I had to pick one for the next 5-10 game weeks, I'd say Lukaku. KDB and Kane thoughts. KDB, great option. He's obviously very good. He's, in my opinion, the best or one of the best in the league. But as an FPL asset, I think you can get better. Like Salah, for example, in the midfield. Even Vardy's looking really good up front. Ronaldo, Lukaku. And obviously, if you want Trent at the back as well, and all these kind of big players like Alonso. As for Kane as well, I just haven't seen enough from Spurs. And once again, I probably prefer the other strikers. Also, Antonio is offering great value, so there's no need to get Kane. Cancelo or Alonso can switch to Shaw. Ahead of Game Week 7, I'd definitely go for Alonso, especially if you're wildcarding in Game Week 8. But long term, maybe Cancelo is the one to go for and then get Rudiger in alongside. Both are very good though, there's no right or wrong there. Say Maximan versus Tony, considering for long term. Definitely Tony, I've talked about this yesterday. Say Maximan's better for the next few game weeks, but once the fixtures dry up, I would rather have Tony. I think he's a better asset. Tony long term for me, I agree, Yusuf. Do I swap White in for Duffy for my wildcard? On the wildcard, I would rather have White, so I probably would do that. Torres and Shaw, James to Cancelo and Gallagher for a -4. That's not the worst transfers in the world, in my opinion. That's actually pretty decent. Yeah, I'd wait and see, obviously, with the injury news before deciding who you get rid of between Shaw and James. But of course, you would ideally want to keep James instead and get rid of Shaw, but let's wait and see. Should I sell Jota or Gray or keep both of them for next game week? If you're wildcarding in game week 8, I'd get rid of... Well, that's tough. That's really tough. I'd potentially get rid of Jota, but he could actually do well against City, and this could finally be his first double-digit return of the season. Yeah. If you're looking long-term, or at least up until game week 12, I'd probably keep both of them. If you had to go for one for the rest of the season, would you go Ronaldo or Lukaku? That's a fantastic question. At this moment in time, I'd say Ronaldo. But yeah, I mean, for the next 5-10 game weeks, like I said before, I'd go for Lukaku. But for the rest of the season, probably Ronaldo. I might change my mind about that. I have Rafinha, Sarr, Salah, Jota. Want to replace Jota? Yeah, you've already got Rafinha and Sarr, so I'm not really too infused with the other options. Of course, there's different ones coming about, like the Everton assets, but I'm just not too confident in them long term. But still, you can go for one of them. You can go for Gallagher. Even Ferran Torres, but just the rotation puts me off, if I'm being completely honest. And Benrama is still a good choice, but I wouldn't be bringing him in just yet. Get a hit to get a Chelsea defender in for Shaw? I'd wait for the press conferences, and if Shaw is definitely out and you don't have anyone else to cover, then yeah, it might be worth it, long term anyway. But otherwise, you could just avoid the hit. Dylan, for next game week, would you start Gray or Gallagher? Thanks in advance. Let me just double check the Palace fixture. Want to get it right. Ooh, I'd probably start Gallagher, but Gray can do well against United. You saw how shaky United can be, and they're so inconsistent. So there's no right or wrong. I think both of them could do well, actually, but I'd probably go for Gallagher. 48 points to go. I have 2 free transfers. I'm thinking of bringing Rudiger and Alonso for Shaw and Ayling. That's fantastic. I'd probably do the same thing in your situation. Thoughts on Firpo? I just don't trust Leeds defensively, and I wouldn't be going near any of their assets again defensively. I'm looking at Rafinha and Bamford. But yeah, look, Firpo could be an interesting choice at some point when Leeds tighten up defensively and they have their players back, but at the moment, not for me. Should I take Varane out? I probably would, especially with the fixtures coming up. I'd be looking at Chelsea or City defenders. Best differential, I saw someone score 2 goals from Burnley. Yeah. Go for Lamptey instead of Duffy. I wouldn't be going for Lamptey. He's injury prone as well. That puts me off. So I would rather have Duffy. Greenwood for Gallagher. I think long term that's a good pick, to be honest. Is Kovacic nailed or only until Mount's absence? I think Kovacic will play the majority of the games, but not all of them. And yeah, the thing with Mount is he could also play as one of the front three. That's where he tends to play. In terms of the actual central midfielders, it tends to be Kante and Jorginho, and if not, Kovacic. So I wouldn't be too surprised about that. Because Chelsea played 3-5-2 today to accommodate Werner up front with Lukaku, that's why Kovacic played alongside Kante and Jorginho. But yeah, I think he is fairly nailed. Not going to play every single game, but he's not someone I'd consider for FPL long term. -4 for Christensen instead of Shaw, White instead of Marçal, and Rafinha instead of Gray. I wouldn't get rid of Marçal for White this week, to be honest. So you could just make 2 free transfers, get Rafinha for Gray and Christensen for Shaw. Is it good to wildcard Game Week 7? Definitely. I mean, there's not that much of a difference between that and Game Week 8. I'm just considering Game Week 8 in my own situation, but there's no right or wrong in my opinion. They're both good options and probably very popular. Is Rudiger a good choice? Definitely. Don't be put off by the yellow card and the 1-pointer this week. He is a great choice. Dylan Force, -4, Trent plus Jota out, Son and Alonso in. Good transfers, honestly, but I would rather keep Trent and not get Son, in my opinion. But yeah, I think obviously to get Alonso, you'd have to get rid of Trent. I understand that, but I probably wouldn't. Say Maximan for Ronaldo, maybe? If I were getting rid of Ronaldo, I would be wanting to get Lukaku or Vardy. I wouldn't want to be going to say Maximan. Jota out for Sarr or Gallagher? Long term, you'd have to say in terms of fixtures, I think Gallagher's better, but Sarr for me. Which team do you support? I support Arsenal. Hopefully Arsenal win tomorrow. 44 points and free to play. Is that good? I think so, mate. I've got 44 and 1 left to play, and I'm reasonably happy. Getting rid of Bamford? I don't have him myself, but if I did, I would wait. Wait for the press conferences, and if he's ruled out for Game Week 7, then yeah, I just get rid of him. Of course, it's a bit annoying because he might be back for Game Week 8 after the international break. Bamford for whom? Once again, say Maximan and Maupai if you want someone short term. If you want someone long term, even Jimenez, Armstrong and Edouard are good choices, at least on paper. And if you can stretch to someone more expensive, then Vardy could be really good, but I doubt you could. Ollie said wait till Monday for Shaw's injury news. Won't his price go down by then? It might, but I wouldn't be getting rid of someone because of that. And look, an easy decision for me would be getting rid of Shaw, getting rid of Ayling, but I want to wait, and I might actually take out Jota and get in a midfielder with a lot of attacking upside. I'm just talking about my team situation there. But of course, if you're completely set on getting rid of Shaw and you have a really good starting lineup, then just get rid of him, get a Chelsea defender. But of course, it can be risky. There is Champions League midweek, and injuries can happen there. Best game week for a wildcard besides 8? I think game week 7. And if not, if you're kind of looking to hold it, I'd be considering game week 14-15. The reason why, for example, if we look at Manchester United, look at the fixtures from game week 14 onwards, arguably, or 15. Absolutely sensational run for Man United, and you'd probably want to triple up on them again. Maybe Ronaldo, maybe Bruno. I doubt that, though. I'm probably not going to be going for him at the moment. Luke Shaw, do we want to go back to that pain? Maybe not, but you'd want to get Ronaldo back in, for example, and maybe a few other options. And I think Chelsea's fixtures start to turn around game week 12, 13, 14. So that's one other game week you could consider. There's going to be other game weeks to come where it might seem just sensible to wildcard or seem like a no-brainer. So at the moment, I'd say game week 7, 8, or maybe 14, 15, but there could be others to come. What do you think about Game Week 7 wildcard? It's nothing wrong with it. There's not much difference with Game Week 8. The reason why I'm probably not going to go for it is because I want to get a City defender, for example. I want to have Trent. I want to have Salah. And I don't know, just wildcarding and having those players when, anything can happen in that game. And it might be someone random like Fabinho scoring, for example. I'm not too sure about that, but I'd rather wildcard in Game Week 8 when most teams have good fixtures, and I would have a clearer plan of what I want to do and not be kind of put off by Game Week 7. But that's just my opinion. It's still a good week to wildcard. Really happy as a City fan. We finally beat Chelsea. Next 2 games, PSG and Liverpool, are going to be tough. Yeah, I mean, I was I was supporting City in that game. I expected Chelsea to win based on the history between Tuchel and Pep recently. Should have happened in the Champions League final. I think if Pep didn't accommodate Sterling in that Champions League final, I think City would have won it. And that's, in my opinion, the biggest mistake in his managerial career. Do you think Sarr is still a good option as his fixtures are turning? I think he's still a good option, but he's not going to be getting these double-digit returns that he's been doing recently. But he is a good option. Who would you choose as a third striker? Edouard, Tony King, or say Maximan? Long-term, Tony. I mean, he's another one. Actually, I haven't even mentioned him long term when I've been talking about Bamford replacements. Look, Tony is my favourite of the 4 long term. But if you want someone, I'd say for the next few game weeks, I'd probably go for Saint-Maximin. Of course, King has been looking good. Best 6 to 9 million midfielder for long term, Rafinha for me. And I've said this before, I'm not trying to react or anything. I think him and Salah are looking really good. Of course, at the beginning of the season, I was looking at Torres, Greenwood and Jota, and I think they were really good. Right now, I think it's Rafinha and Salah. Shaw or Ayling to a Chelsea defender. Wait for the injury news. If Shaw is out, then just get rid of him. But I'd probably get rid of Ayling if I had to pick between them. Alonso safe transfer in if Chilwell plays UCL. Exactly, mate. That's something I mentioned before. Why is Antonio still locked? I think he won't be locked now. I think it's after the deadline passes. So he could actually move up or down in price. Correct me if I'm wrong there. As if Man U is reliable with any fixture run and who to even bring in apart from Ronaldo. That's a good point, Chris. United aren't reliable. But with those fixtures, you probably don't want to go without Ronaldo. I think he could do extremely well and he can be a flat track bully. Will there be a double game week by the end of the year? It's possible, but it tends to be in the second half of the season. So that means we're going to have to wait for 2022. Sounds weird saying that year already. Who is now on penalties? Bruno out, Ronaldo? What do you think? I think Ronaldo will be on penalties now, but I could be wrong. -12 over next 3 game weeks or wildcard in game week 7. If you're looking to -12 and then make further transfers, so you'd want to make additional changes, then I'd definitely just wildcard in game week 7. Probable best midfielder transfers if you're wildcarding in game week 8. Rafinha for sure. He's kind of nailed on my wildcard. He's someone I want to get in even now and even before. It's just these kind of injury doubts have put me off and I had other transfers to make. I also wanted Salah. Salah for me is I'd say pretty reasonable lock. Then it gets a bit kind of, I'd say, open-ended. There's not really too many clear-cut options, but I think Salah and Rafinha, definitely in there. I'd still consider Salah. I just think that he's going to outscore most players around his price. Other than that, I'm not trusting Wolves' assets long-term. I mean, maybe Everton, Townsend or Gray are interesting choices, and I'd consider them. Barnes, when Leicester improve, he's someone to look at, but I'm not looking at him just yet. Bruno and Greenwood with the fixtures, I'm not just interested. Chelsea, I want to get the double up in defence and Lukaku potentially, so not looking at Mount or Havertz, who would be decent choices. Yeah, even Benrama's not too bad, but I think Salah, Sarr and Rafinha. Then the rest, I'd have to wait and see what happens. Maybe I'd keep Jota in, actually, which is a bit interesting. But that's a tough one. There's also Gallagher as well, as well as the Everton assets, which I mentioned. I would consider them. But honestly, I'd probably have to wait another week and then fully, decide on it. And I'll be making best wildcard team videos ahead of Game Week 7 and 8 potentially. And if I do, then definitely check them out. And I'll be having a clear-cut answer for you there in terms of my ideas for the best midfielders you can get, as well as the best team. Thank you everyone who's still here, by the way. We're nearly at 9 p.m. and nearly 300 people watching. Who is your favourite FPL player, YouTuber? Any friends or rivals? That's a great question. Honestly, I'm not too sure. That's a great question. Look, there's plenty. I mean, I know some people from Fantasy Football Hub, so I'd say there's some of them, like Fergie, for example, and James, the editor. Other than that, I mean, yeah, I'd probably be looking at the people from Black Box. They're very good. FPL Wire as well, and maybe FPL Tips. But honestly, I haven't been watching too much in terms of FPL content recently. But at one point, I was watching more. Yeah, good question. Thoughts on Smith Rowe, Saka, Pepe, and Odegaard? Pepe's the most intriguing one to me out of all of them, but I can't bring myself to spend that much on an Arsenal player. So if you just want a budget option, I think Odegaard or Smith Rowe could be good. Saka's at a bit of an awkward price because he's the same as Rafinha. You'd rather have him. Sarr, also better. Benrama, another one better than Saka. But then again, I look at Smith Rowe and Odegaard. I would rather have Mbeumo. I would rather have also just all the other Everton assets we discussed, like Gray, and also, I need to say Decore. I'm not too sure about him. I'd probably say Townsend. And also Gallagher, so not too sure about the Arsenal assets. Why didn't we mention Gabriel Jesus? He's also a decent striker. Well, you can't have everyone, honestly, and he's just a rotation risk. That's the main problem with him. I'd rather have double City defence, if anything, if I'm being completely honest. I actually mentioned him a few weeks ago, or at least in the last few videos for my previews. I was talking about him being a very good option for those particular game weeks. And Jesus, that's the thing. He can be a great differential from time to time, but he's not always going to play, and he's not a reliable goal scorer. That's just my opinion, though. And if you want him, definitely go for him. We need to get rid of Jota. I don't think you need to get rid of him. Of course, he's very frustrating. Firmino's back. He could have his minutes shared and limited, but I think he's a good shout. Is Jota going to start? I think he will against City, but what Klopp could do is, instead of having Firmino as an attacking midfielder and playing the front three, he could actually just play Firmino up front, play Curtis Jones and the regular midfielders there, and Jota's on the bench. It's a possibility, but I would expect Jota to start. On FPL Fix, it still has him locked. Antonio. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's something worth monitoring. But yeah, I thought it would be, after the deadline passes, he's able to go up in price. Because the red card he got, he was locked. Not sure why he would be now. Maybe on the Monday, after all the games are done, that could be it. After all the games are done, he can start going up in price again. 5.5 million defender replacement for sure. Probably Christensen, I'd say. Other than that, you'd mainly just want to be looking at City and Chelsea defenders. So I'd say Christensen. If he can get Rudiger at 5.6, I'd go for him for sure. Is wildcard worth using in Game Week 7 if I put in Salah, Trent, Diaz, Cancelo? I think so, but don't just do a wildcard if you're only making 4 transfers and the rest of your team is the same. With a wildcard, you want to make 6, 7, maybe more changes. Probably I'd say 7 or more. What do you think about Greenwood for the next game weeks? I think Greenwood could be good in Game Week 7 and Game Week 8 against Leicester, but beyond that, I wouldn't want him. And I also wouldn't be surprised if he's kind of in and out of the team. -4 for Christensen instead of Shaw, when White instead of Marcel. Yeah, Wabi, I answered your question before, and I said I'd get Rafinha and White. No. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me. I would probably get Christensen and Rafinha, but I wouldn't get rid of Marcel for White. So 2 free transfers, avoid the hit, and you get 2 really good players. What do you think about Grealish having good fixtures after Game Week 7? He's a good player who can tick over, but I don't know. I'm still just more keen on getting the City defenders. With the City attackers, yeah, Grealish is nailed. That's what's appealing about him. But could you maybe get better value from Sarr, from Rafinha? I think so. Even potentially Benrama. Look, Grealish should be considered, I think, because he's nailed and because he's such a good player. He almost scored today if it wasn't for Mendy's fantastic save. It's 1:25 a.m. here in India, says Aranya. Thank you very much for tuning in. Same with everyone else around the world, which is obviously crazy, to think people from different continents, just joining in is crazy. Have you interacted with FPL Youngster on Twitter? His content is very good. I don't believe I have. There's also another one called FPL Junior, and he's been writing for Fantasy Football Hub, so I might have interacted with him, but not with FPL Youngster. What a pony week, scored 60 points. Yeah, it's not the greatest, but don't worry about it. These things can happen. Best 5 million defender and who to take out for Jota? For me, it's Christensen, especially if James is out for some time. And if you want to get rid of Jota, I'd definitely be looking at Rafinha long term. I switched Cancelo to Rudiger this week. Oof, that is tough, but yeah, you'd probably want Cancelo back from Game Week 8 onwards. It's a bit of a risky transfer to make always. It can backfire. Most people expected Chelsea to win this week based on what's happened recently between the two clubs. Not really a bad choice in my opinion. It just kind of went against you. Time to wildcard, I think. Yeah, either Game Week 7 or 8. I'm leaning towards Game Week 8, but yeah, the way my team's looking, the team structure, I want to change some things. Get off United, get onto Chelsea, and change other things. Get onto City players as well. I think it is worth the wildcard. Just discovered this channel and you have earned a loyal subscriber. Keep up the good work. On the side though, don't really think Greenwood is a good option going forward, honestly. I completely agree about Greenwood. I think he's a good option for Game Week 7 and maybe 8, but beyond that, definitely wouldn't want him. And I want to say I regret keeping him in a way. I thought he would score against Villa. He's actually got a good record against them, 2 goals in his last 3 games. But yeah, going forward, he's not a good option. And thank you very much for your kind words, Kelvin. Really appreciate it and hope to see you in future live streams and videos. Thank you very much, mate. Wow, you've done well. I've hit the like button to show my appreciation. All the best in all the game weeks and cups. Thank you very much, Michael, as well. Really appreciate it, mate. And all the other 267 people, or 266, watching. Obviously, fantastic support and great to see so many comments and ideas here. Sell Greenwood on wildcard or keep him? I would sell him on a wildcard, definitely. Is Gallagher a good replacement for Jota? I think so, but I'd rather keep Jota, which might sound weird. Your squad value currently? Good question. My squad value is, this is, I don't pay attention to it. 111, imagine. 101.3. I can't count, mate. I've got 100.9 squad value and I've got 0.4 in the bank. So yeah, 101.3. I never really pay attention to it, to be honest, but it's reasonably alright at this stage of the season. Yeah, let's see what happens. Traore or Rafinha for next game week? Definitely Rafinha. Differential Robertson? he's a good choice, and you could even double up with him and Trent instead of going for Jota. But I would rather go for Trent, honestly, and I'd also rather go for Cancelo and Alonso, Rudiger, etc. instead of Robertson. What if I already have Rudiger? What 5 million defender do I get? I'd still go for Christensen. There's nothing wrong with having a double Chelsea defence. But if you don't want to go for that, then I'd still consider the Wolves defenders, but they are very frustrating. You know, I will concede that. If you want another 5 million defender, I wouldn't be going for Sufo, I think, from what I've seen so far this season. Cash could be an interesting choice. I think Villa have some good fixtures coming up. He looked really attacking. Obviously, he scored the other week, and then I don't know how he didn't get an assist for target, by the way, against Manchester United. So he's another one to look at, but I'm not really too enthusiastic. The rest, I'd be looking at 4.6 and under, so Marçal, maybe Ben White, Tomiyasu, or Livramento, Duffy, these kind of cheaper players. But yeah, Christensen is my favourite, in my opinion. I'm 130k, is that good? It's a very good rank, mate, especially at this stage of the season. I already wildcarded, damn. Yeah, fair enough, and yeah, that's why I think I'd still go for Christensen. Chances that Greenwood price will fall this week? I think there is a chance, but I think that's a good question, actually. I think a lot of people will be getting rid of him now, and if not, definitely ahead of game week 8. I think that's when he definitely will be going down. Probably more likely than game week 7 or before game week 7. Jota out. If you're wildcarding in game week 8, I would say yes, get rid of him, get someone like Rafinha if you don't have him already, or Salah. Otherwise, you could just keep him. 4 a.m. in Malaysia. That's crazy, man. I don't know what you're doing watching this video, but thank you very much. Obviously, really appreciate it. 3 a.m. in Thailand. Damn. Why remove Jota, though? The reason why I say that is because if you wildcard in game week 8, you want to have a punt, you know, for one game week. So, for example, let's show you my transfer plans. If you get rid of Jota, who faces Man City, by the way, then you look at the fixtures across the board. Leeds face Watford. I think Rafinha could do really well in that game week once again. Maybe he won't score. I don't see him scoring 3 or 4 game weeks in a row. He's not that type of player, but he could get a few assists, for example. So you could do Rafinha in. That's assuming he is fit, by the way. Let's wait and see for the press conferences. And then for that one game week, you have Rafinha, and then you can wildcard, keep Rafinha, have Salah, maybe Salah, and then bring Jota back in, who's got some good fixtures, including Watford, in game week 8. So that's one way to play it. But if you're not wildcarding in game week 8 or 7, I'd probably just keep Jota, honestly, at the moment anyway. The reason why I say that is because I'm not really too convinced by most of the options in midfield. That's why I'm mainly talking about Salah, and Rafinha, and possibly Jota as the midfield 4, and then go with 3 in the attack. So that's interesting, obviously. Let's wait and see how it pans out. There's no right or wrong. But at the moment, I'd probably be kind of tempted, if I were wildcarding game week 8, to get rid of him. Could Calvert-Lewin get a hat-trick next week versus Man United? Not a hat-trick, but he could get a brace like he did last time. A hat-trick seems a bit excessive. Do you think Thiago Silva will start more than Christensen? Good question. I think with Reece James out, it could be Azpilicueta right wing back, and it will be Thiago Silva, Christensen, and Rudiger. But you make a good point. I think Thiago Silva, yeah, this is the thing. He didn't start today because he actually had a little injury or a little knock. But yeah, I think Christensen might be a little bit more nailed. That's a tough one, though. Obviously, Rudiger and Azpilicueta by far the most nailed in that defence. That goes without saying. But out of those two, I would say Christensen's a bit more. But Thiago Silva, obviously, very good defender even now. 59 points, Cucurella, Marçal left to play. Antonio captain, that's a fantastic captaincy shout. And my mum, by the way, she captained Antonio. Very good pick from her part. And that's why she's got more points than me. Maybe she should make the videos. How is it, man? Sending love from South Africa. Quick question. Who should I take out? Pogba out? He hasn't been performing and I have 7.7 to spend. Thank you very much, Mr. Boats. Very much appreciated. Big up, South Africa. And yeah, I think I would be getting rid of Pogba. And for 7.7, definitely Rafinha if you don't have him already. And if not, Salah, especially if you're looking for a 1 week punt before wildcarding in game week 8. Thank you for the question, mate. Greenwood was much more selfish this game week than previous. I'm probably going to keep him if he stays like that. Yeah, that's a good point. And against West Ham in the Carabao Cup, he looked very lively when he came on. And that's what made me want to keep him. Also his record against Villa. I think it's not bad keeping him against Everton. I'd rather keep him over Jota for this game week specifically. But long term, Jota all day for me at this moment in time. Reason you're considering keeping Jota? I think the reason why is because he's just getting so many chances. His underlying stats are exceptional. Obviously, he's not performing. He should be getting more points, but then again, he can still tick along nicely with goals. And also, I'm not too convinced by the other midfielders. Obviously, there's a lot of choices, but I want to wait to see a consistent option that I have full confidence in before kind of committing to them. So, unfortunately, I'm not that settled or kind of sold on Gallagher, Everton midfielders at this moment in time. I'd be a bit more confident in Sarr, Rafinha, Salah. But as for that fourth midfielder, I wouldn't mind keeping Jota. But then again, if he didn't score against Brentford and, missed those sitters that he did, I don't know, I'd be put off. Rafinha seems injured, yeah. That's why I'd wait and see before making any transfers, if possible. And, of course, if Rafinha's injured, I might just consider keeping Jota for the week and doing Shaw to a Chelsea defender as planned before. I dropped to 19k this week, really bad. Yeah, but 19k is a fantastic position to be in. It's not really the end of the world. Why do you think this was such a low-scoring game week so far? The highest manager was 73 with a bench boost chip. I just think because random players scored. We're talking about Pinnock. We're talking about... I'm trying to think of someone else. In Decore, in my opinion, is a bit of a random pick who just get into goals. We're looking at the kind of more... I'd say popular FPL assets, they're just not really doing it. And even Ronaldo, Bruno, all these United assets, Shaw, all blanking, Reece James and all Chelsea defenders getting yellow cards or injured. And not many people have City players, so that's why the average is very low. But, this is going to happen. And with the template so strong, I think it's not the end of the world if you have a bad week, assuming you have a kind of template team. But yeah, these things can happen. Best wildcard team you can make for Game Week 7. I'll be making a video about that, and I'll be talking and discussing those picks in detail. But yeah, not many surprises will be in there. Either one or two Chelsea defenders. Cancelo, I'd be considering maybe Livramento as a fifth defender, and if not, Ben White is also a good fourth or fifth choice defender. As for the midfielders, Sarr, Rafinha, Salah, and as for the attack, Antonio I'd still go for, and probably Lukaku. Vardy's another one to consider, I think. He is doing really well at the moment. As for the goalkeepers, that's where I'm probably not too sure about. Foster as the 4 million is fine. I don't expect him to start next game week when Bachmann is back. But Sanchez, maybe we could do better. Who knows? But Brighton cover defensively isn't the worst in the world. Will you post a Game Week 7 wildcard draft? Yes, I will. Especially if I'm able to, I definitely will. Same with Game Week 8, which is another really popular time. Hey, love the stream. Thank you very much, Marlon. Really appreciate it. Don't you admit Wolves and Leeds should be considered as a weak team Premier League? This season, Leeds are much weaker just overall, but especially defensively. It's a bit harsh, though. They've had a lot of injuries. I think they can improve, but this season, yeah, they're both, I'd say, mid-table to lower end, battling or flirting with relegation, especially Leeds, who are in the relegation zone right now. Greenwood could be benched next game week after 4 blanks, don't you think? Cavani's back too. Yeah, he could be benched next game week, but he's only blanked really, twice? So it's not the end of the world. He did really well in the first few game weeks. Of course, since Ronaldo's come in, yeah, he's not done the business. I'm assuming you're talking about Champions League and also the Carabao Cup, so he's blanked 4 times in a row. And I just don't like how he's playing with Ronaldo coming into the team. But he looked a bit more greedy, a bit more selfish today. Great video again, Dylan. I'll see you back for UCL Fantasy. Thank you very much, mate. And yeah, hope to see you there too. Gonna wildcard Lukaku replacing Ronaldo. If I was wildcarding, I would do that. But if you're wildcarding Game Week 8, I'd just keep Ronaldo for another week probably. But yeah, Lukaku in for Ronaldo is a good shout. Brought in Rudiger for sure. We'll bring in Cancelo next game week. Sounds like a plan, and it's something similar to what I'm probably going to do, unless I get rid of Jota for Rafinha, which depends on the news with Rafinha. And sure, actually. Is it worth to take a hit for 2 Chelsea defenders? I only have 1 free transfer. It could be worth it if someone like Alonso is involved, but you could always just save the transfer and just make a free one, Should I get rid of Greenwood on a wild card? I would do that, Kobe. Will Firmino not take Jota's place, though? I think he will take his minutes and even starts occasionally, but not all the time. And they could coexist in the same team like they did today when Firmino came on. Hello from Montenegro. What do you think about double Chelsea players in defence? Definitely. I still think it's a good way to go, despite them conceding today and getting a lot of yellow cards, by the way, and also injuries. But yeah, I think a double up is the way to go. If not, 1 Chelsea defender and 1 City, like Cancelo or Diaz. So that's definitely fine. Don't you think Klopp will start Firmino against Man City? I think so. If Firmino's fully fit, which he probably will be by then, I probably would say so. Man, are you kidding? I had Jota, Salah and Alan and none of them got bonuses. Anyways, 28 points, 5 players left to go. I have 2 free transfers, probably getting Rafinha and Alonso in. Great set of transfers there, Football Zen. And that's the type of week we have, you know. You have players who are actually doing all right and they're not getting bonus points for it. So that's another reason why I'd say the week is very low scoring. 6 players from United and Liverpool in Game Week 7 all go for a wild card. Yeah, I mean, I'm in a similar situation, to be honest. You could wildcard in Game Week 7. There's no right or wrong. I'm just considering using it in Game Week 8. I'll think about it over the week and I'll come to a decision. And when I make the Game Week 7 wildcard team, if I'm able to, which I should, I think that is what will probably settle it for me. If I like the team, even for Game Week 7 onwards, I might just hit the wildcard. Is Werner an option? He looked good today. He always looks good against City, but I probably wouldn't go for him. I'd just rather have Lukaku and the 2 Chelsea defenders. I wouldn't expect Werner to start all the time. They played 3-5-2 in order to exploit City's weaknesses and their high line. Werner tends to cause them problems with his pace. I wouldn't go for him. I would need to see more from him in terms of end product and consistency, but he did look good. Would you recommend any Tottenham players if using a wild card? Not at this moment in time. Maybe a cheap defender like Dyer or someone like that, or Tanganga, but I probably wouldn't be recommending Son or Kane at the moment. But in the future, they can be good assets, especially if they start finding their scoring boots on. When do you plan on wildcarding? Game Week 8. If not, I might just do it in Game Week 7. Are there not going to be 2 big double Game Weeks and blank Game Weeks this, like last season, this time? Is it worth holding the wildcard for later? My team isn't looking good, to be honest, but I recall last year's double Game Weeks, I got loads of points. I think by the time a similar double Game Week comes about, I think it'll be in the second half of the season where you have your second wildcard for that. The reason why I think we had it in so early, I think it had partly to do with the fixture rescheduling because of COVID and stuff like that. It hasn't really happened so far this season. But yeah, it's also another viable strategy. That's why I was also considering holding the wildcard for an event like that or something else. But I actually remember some people who held the wildcard up until Game Week 19 last season. It didn't actually really go according to plan for them, and in the end it didn't make too much of a difference, and if anything they might have been worse off by holding the wild card that long. So it just depends. It's all about timing. Your team is going to be different to others, even if the template is so strong, and when you feel it's the right time, just go for it. And if you think it's best to hold it, then there's nothing wrong with it, to be honest. Bench Cancelo or Trent? I wouldn't want to. That's a tough one. I wouldn't want to bench any of them. I'd probably bench Cancelo, but I think City have a better defence. What do you think about Reece James Game Week 7? I just say wait and see for the press conference, but there is a chance that he doesn't start. Why wildcard Game Week 8 instead of Game Week 7? Because City play Liverpool as well, and it's a bit of an awkward time to wildcard, and also just the extra week's worth of data, and also the international break. That's also another key reason I haven't discussed. Just having the international break as well. If you wildcard in Game Week 7, then you have a few injuries and, I don't know, COVID cases or stuff like that. So let's say, for example, Rafinha travels to Brazil, to a red list country, then misses out in Game Week 8. I don't know, it just seems a bit awkward. And you might be in a position where you have 3 or 4 players out heading into Game Week 8. Meanwhile, if you wildcard into Game Week 8, you have, I'd say, an advantage over those who played it earlier. How is the average 34? It confuses me so much. I'm actually not surprised by that. If anything, it might be too high in my opinion, or at least it's higher than I thought. Christensen could be more nailed with James's injury. I agree, Braden. Exactly, very good point. What about KDB? Looked good today, and City seems to be on the right path again. People have been mentioning KDB ever since he's been returning, and look, he's a great option. In my opinion, he's the best, or top 2 or 3 Premier League players. But as an FPL asset, I just think Salah's much better in midfield. Then you have Ronaldo up front. You probably just could go for Lukaku or Vardy right now. Then you could want to have Trent. So it's very difficult to fit De Bruyne in. I wouldn't have him at Salah's expense. And I don't know, just for me, I want to see a bit more goal output on a consistent basis from him. And City are very, I want to say inconsistent, but they're very, I'd say sometimes they lack cutting edge. They need that striker. And sometimes they might just grind out a 1-0 win. And they have so many different goal scorers and assisters that it just it puts too many doubts in my mind about Kevin De Bruyne. Also, he's a bit, at least in recent times, he's been a bit injury prone. And I look at the other options as well. I don't know, just for me, I need to see more from him. And also with the Champions League, the other cups, City have so many good players. They could easily rotate him from time to time, especially in some of these easier fixtures, like Norwich at home. Maybe he won't even play. But of course, he's one of the most nailed City players, if not the most nailed, other than Diaz. So I can see the appeal, but I'm just not going to go for him. Your prediction, Liverpool versus Man City match? That's a tough one. I mean, once again, with future previews and stuff, when I'm doing the score predictions, I'll probably be covering that. That's a really tough one to call. I'm actually sensing a draw in this one. I'm thinking maybe 1-1. At this moment in time, I might change my mind though. Thoughts on Ward-Prowse? I like him on Sky Fantasy Football, but in FPL, not really too keen on him. Thoughts on Foden and Grealish? I think with their lack of striker, they both could be nailed. I think Grealish is probably a bit more nailed, but obviously Foden was fantastic for City last season, especially in the Champions League, and they both could do really well for them. I think maybe I'd rather have Grealish at this moment in time, but they're both good options, and you're right to call them out. And obviously De Bruyne's another one, and maybe they could actually start to fill in, those midfielder spots that I'd say Greenwood, potentially Jota, and also Torres are vacated. My game week is so bad, I'm hoping Dyer scores a hat-trick. I hope not. I hope he scores a hat-trick of own goals. No offence, mate. What do you think of my wildcard team so far? Sanchez, Trent, Cancelo, Rudiger, Alonso, Rafinha, Salah, Lukaku, Saint-Maximin, Antonio, Bench, Foster, Gallagher, Townsend, Livramento. That's a fantastic team, to be honest. You might argue you have benching headaches most of the time, and Gallagher and Townsend, Livramento, they could easily do really well when you bench them, but that's a fantastic team, and there's not much I would change from that, and maybe that will look very similar to the Game Week 7 team I make in future videos when I'm talking about the best wildcard team. That's a fantastic team, Kobe. Hopefully Basuma replaces Torres, as he got 0 points. Yeah, Basuma is an injury doubt. Let's wait and see what happens there, but you'd probably just expect 2 or 3 points. Benrama or Rafinha? I'd prefer Rafinha long term. Cancelo or Rudiger? Both of them, really. I mean, if I had to pick one, maybe just Cancelo as your City cover and then get another Chelsea defender like Christensen or Alonso alongside. But Rudiger's a fantastic choice. He's probably more set and forget than Cancelo. That's what I would say. Thoughts on free hit this week due to big teams having hard games? It's an option, but I'd rather keep the free hit for a double game week or blank game week, in my opinion. Torres replacement long-term, Gallagher. That's one option. You could arguably still go for an Everton asset, and if not, Sarr or Rafinha. Rafinha would be the standout if you don't have him. Thank you, Yaffa. Ramsdale instead of Sanchez going forward. I think, yeah, if Ramsdale can maintain that starting berth, which he should do, hopefully he does, I think he's definitely one to look at for the wild card. Sarr, Salah, Rafinha, Traore in the midfield. What do you think? I would probably get rid of Traore, and I'd be considering, I'm not sure how much money you have in the bank, but maybe an Everton midfielder or Gallagher if you want someone long term. Hello Dylan, just came out from work and currently walking to the bus stop and saw you were live. How are you doing? Also, I was at work during the Liverpool game and I support them. Yeah, it was a fantastic game. You probably want to watch that on Match of the Day or something else. It was an amazing game. And yeah, obviously appreciate you watching whilst you're basically, traveling. Appreciate that, mate. And yeah, doing pretty well. What about you, Adil? Thank you very much for joining in. Hopefully you're feeling better as well. Is there any info on Bamford injury? There isn't, Football Zen. Also, I have Livramento, Sanchez, Marcel, Jimenez and Reguilon left. Not so hopeful, but hopefully I get at least 55 points. That's plenty of players, to be fair. I think they could actually get you a reasonable amount of points, to be fair. Which 3 Brentford assets would you recommend? I wouldn't triple up on Brentford, but Tony for sure. I'd say Mbeumo and Raya in goal, or maybe a Pinnacle, one of their defenders, but Mbeumo and Tony. Maybe I'd be a bit I'd say, concerned about doubling up on their attack. That's why, in my opinion, I'd just rather get one of Mbeumo or Tony and potentially Raya in goal. But it's a bit of a I'd say, difficult time or a bit of an awkward one to get triple Brentford right now. I love your videos. UCL videos coming soon. Yes, they will be. Thank you very much for your comment. Not Sidemen. And yeah, I'll be aiming. Hopefully I can get a UCL fantasy video out about the best chip strategy. I might merge that with the best limitless team for match day 2 because I think they kind of go together and they're both pretty relevant. And the deadline stream will be on Tuesday, 1 hour or so before the matches start. So thank you very much for that question. I'm on 60 points with 2 players to play. W? Definitely Ovi. That's more than a W in my opinion. Best Chelsea midfielder for fantasy football? The one I like the most is Havertz, but there's also Mount. I think Mount, in terms of value, when he starts, he's pretty decent. But really, if I'm being honest, I'd rather have the double Chelsea defence and Lukaku. My bench, Foster, Williams, Allen, Livramento. That's pretty decent. I played Allen instead of Torres this week. He got 7 points. Wow, that is a bold call. And either way, yeah, Torres would have come off. If midfielder don't play, defenders will replace if you have a valid formation. So if you have 3 defenders and let's say, for example, you have, I don't know, Benrama on your bench first there, but let's say, for example, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a defender who didn't play. Let's just say, for example, Shaw didn't play, which he did, but let's ignore that. Then he will come off, but he will come off for the first defender on your bench, not your midfielder. But if you already have enough defenders, so let's say 4, and one of your defenders misses out, then whoever's first on your bench will come on. So as long as it's a valid formation, you will be fine. Don't worry about it. What will be your plans with your Liverpool triple up this week versus Man City, because I have the same problem? Worth a hit or nah? I'm considering getting rid of Jota for Rafinha if Rafinha is fit, and if Shaw is fine, I wouldn't mind playing him, or if not, Ben White or Ayling if possible. But otherwise, I probably would try to avoid the hit because I'm wildcarding very soon anyway. With a hit, what would kind of attract me to it, or at least make me consider it seriously, is if it's something that could benefit me long term, not just for one particular game week. Otherwise, I think that a hit is just way too risky. Only 45 points, Semedo left. That's still not too bad, mate. I'm 44 with Cody left, so you'll probably outscore me. Yeah, much better after taking antibiotics for a couple of days now, thanks. Still a bit of a cough, but doing all right. Yeah, I mean, that sounds tough. You've had it for several weeks, or at least you've had something else come about now. But yeah, hopefully you get well soon, mate. Should I bring in Rafinha for Trossard using my free transfer? I probably would. Depending on who else you have. If you have Greenwood or Jota, you could arguably get rid of them instead, but yeah, that looks decent. Face reveal, it could happen at some point. I mean, you could just go on Instagram and you'll see there as well, to be fair. 48 with 4... Oh my god, that sounded like I was crying. 48 with 4 to go. I'll take that after seeing some other teams on Twitter today. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are doing poorly. 48 with 4 left. That's fantastic in my opinion. How many points, including bonus, did Salah get? I don't have him, and worried it will affect my score. He got 9 points overall, so 2 bonus points. Yeah, it was confirmed now. He's got 9 points overall. Also, I have Salah captain, but went with CR7. Why was Bruno on the pen? I'm not too sure, and honestly, that would change it completely. Ronaldo would probably get bonus points as well, and in the end, all of the captaincy choices kind of pretty much match each other. So, you know, it is what it is. Do you think Cancelo going to outscore Trent or Robertson this season? I think he might outscore Robertson, especially if Tsimikas comes in from time to time, but I'm not sure about outscoring Trent. And also with Cancelo, what we have to consider is, will he start to be benched in the winter period, for example, or from, I'd say, February, March onwards, like he did last season? That is possible. I bought Torres at 7.1. If his price drops today, will his price in my team also drop, or will it drop when his current price drops to 6.9? I think your squad value would drop by 0.1. Yeah, it would. I only got 30 points. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, you know. I've had weeks like that. Also worse, you know. I'm talking about 20 points. So yeah, just hopefully we bounce back. Edison as an option with how many clean sheets they'll keep, similar to big defense template. There's an actual debate there. You know, Martinez, Mendy, or Edison in goal. There's nothing wrong with it. I would just rather have that money invested in the defense on a Cancelo, for example, who will get you more attacking returns. But that's not a bad shout. Best Chelsea defender with Rudiger? Probably Alonso, and if not, Christensen. Thanks for answering all my questions, Dylan. Thank you, Kobe, once again for joining in, mate. I like your dog, mate. I have a dog, 1 cat, 1 kitten. It's actually not my dog, you know. It was a stray dog in Argentina. But thank you very much for checking the Instagram out. And I was very young back then, very young. I mean, that's only 2016. I'm talking like I'm a 50-year-old man, for fuck's sake. Do you believe in God? Wow, that's a very interesting question. I actually do. But funnily enough, I mean, I do believe in God, but I don't follow a religion. Top 4 predictions at this moment in time. I still think United will get top 4. Probably 4th, if we're looking at how the season has panned so far. I think Chelsea or City for the league. And yeah, Liverpool will finish 2nd or 3rd. It's a tough one, obviously. I said before this game week, Chelsea are my tip to win the league, but it could easily be City or Liverpool. Any one of them, and I've said this for a few weeks. United, though, I just don't have faith in them winning the league. Christensen instead of Shaw and Salah instead of Gray. Yeah, once again, Wabi, that's the 2 free transfers I would make. I wouldn't make the -4 you proposed earlier, where you get rid of Marcel, I believe, to get Ben White. Ronaldo or Lukaku? I need money for Chelsea defenders. One has to go. Thanks. Ronaldo, because Lukaku has a great run of fixtures now, and Ronaldo you probably won't captain, so it doesn't really make sense to keep him, in my opinion. And you probably want to have Lukaku ahead of Norwich, for example, in Game Week 9. So keep Lukaku, get rid of Ronaldo, Gola. Lords HD says Mendy, Trent, Shaw, Alonso, Duffy, Salah, Pogba, Torres, Gray, Basuma, Ronaldo, Antonio. Who needs to go? Probably Ronaldo and Pogba, and also Shaw. Just any of the United players, really, if I'm being honest. And also Torres. Those are the 4 I'd be looking at. So what you could do is Torres or Pogba out for Rafinha. I'd probably say Torres. But what you could do, actually, long term, I would rather keep Torres than Pogba. Maybe do Pogba to Rafinha. And beyond that, you could then do Shaw to a Chelsea defender, maybe? Chelsea? Or Cancelo. So maybe Rudiger or Cancelo. And then Ronaldo to Lukaku. A lot of people are going to be in the same boat, guys. So don't get yourselves down if you didn't get the best score today. There's always the next game week. Completely agree. And I was honestly laughing it off at some point. Before Salah scored, Rafinha had scored at that point. And everything was just terrible for me. But these things can happen. You've got to laugh it off. What are your plans with Jota? Just wondering because I own him. I'm probably going to be wildcarding in Game Week 8, so I'm considering getting rid of him for 1 week at least. And I might bring him back in for the wildcard if I'm not convinced by the other midfielder options. But yeah, if I'm not wildcarding in Game Week 8, I'd probably just keep him long term, at least for the time being. And then if Firmino is taking too many minutes, then I'd just get rid of him. Bamford replacement. Long term, once again, if you want someone cheaper, Edouard, Tony, Armstrong. Someone for the short term, definitely say Maximan, or I'd say... there is King as well, but I'd rather probably go for Maupai. And then if you can stretch to someone more expensive, definitely Lukaku or Vardy. When is Cancelo expected to be regularly rotated? For how long can we have him before he starts getting rotated? It's a great question. I think last season it was from February, March onwards, so it could be something similar once again. But at this point in time, he can't be dropped, in my opinion. Do you believe in God? No, I'm done. We kind of get all kind of questions here in this channel, sometimes about films and stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm on 44 as well. Yeah, that's a great score. Great score, isn't it? I like the number 44. But yeah, obviously I'd rather have more points. But, it is what it is. 42 points this week with Livramento and Sanchez to play in Green Arrow. Still a lot to play for this season, everyone. 30-point difference between 30k and 300k. Exactly, Dylan. The voice of reason, as you are most of the time. Or maybe always. Maybe that sounds a bit rude. Yeah, I'm not really too bothered. And I think with the template being so strong... I think it might take even longer than usual for differences in ranks to kind of occur. Are you Argentine? Yes, I am. Dual nationality, born in London, but my family are from Argentina. Chelsea's next games tick. Exactly, mate, exactly. Salah for 1 more week or get Rafinha? Oh, I wouldn't get rid of Salah for Rafinha. No, I wouldn't do that. Both are great options this week. I wouldn't kind of get rid of one to get the other. They're both great options. Long term, I'd rather have Rafinha. Can you show your plans? Yeah, my plans right now... Oh, I forgot that I was showing my Game Week 17. Or Game Week 16, should I say. My plans are to either get rid of Shaw for Alonso or Rudiger, as I've talked about for like 3 weeks now. Finally, maybe I'm going to do it. If not, I might just get rid of Jota and get Rafinha in if he's fit. And then just play Trent, White and Cody potentially. And if Shaw's fit, I could just play him. And then wildcard in Game Week 8. But the plan will be to wildcard potentially in Game Week 8, get Cancelo, get a Chelsea defender or 2, get Lukaku, and do a reshuffle in my team. Go back to 3 strikers and go away from 5 midfielders because I'm not really feeling the midfielders too much. Obviously, there's a lot of options and maybe a lot of them will be good long term, but I need to see more to be convinced. Salah, Rafinha, and Salah I like long term, but I'm not sure about the rest. And obviously, I'd probably be getting off Cody, Ayling for sure. I might keep Ben White. Might even change Sanchez. There's a lot to do. I think I might make 7, maybe 8 transfers on a wild card. So yeah, I think a Chelsea defender for sure, or Rafinha in for Jota is what I'm going to do. Which one would you prefer, Alonso or Rudiger? If you're wildcarding in Game Week 8, definitely Alonso. And if you just want someone safe and secure, go for Rudiger. But obviously, Alonso will probably be more explosive when he starts. I believe in God too, since Anteater. A lot of people do. Obviously, more people nowadays aren't. But yeah. Hey again, what about Rafinha for Benrama? I like Benrama this week potentially, but yeah, I would rather have Rafinha long term. If you had to, then I'd go for it. Decore or Gray? I still prefer Gray. Have you thought about Grealish in the Game Week 8 wildcard? Seems to be the most nailed in that team on a good price. To be honest, you guys raise a good point, and maybe I've been too narrow-minded in my thinking. I think he's actually a good choice. If I were to go for a City attacker, I'd consider him. And on the Game Week 8 wildcard team, for example, when I make a video for that, I would actually be talking about him. Maybe not in the Game Week 7 because he does face Liverpool. But then again, last season, didn't he get like 20, 24 points against them? You never know. KDB, good choice, but once again, I'd rather probably go for Grealish or Torres in the midfield and go for Cancelo and Diaz in the defence. I've got Tsimikas, Trent, Ayling, Shaw and Amati on my team. It's time to wildcard, please, I need help. I mean, I'm not sure what your midfield and attack is. I'm guessing you have Salah, maybe Jota, and some United players. I'd say wildcard either game week 7 or 8, Kathy, but obviously it's all down to your team situation. Your midfield and attack might actually look really good for game week 7. Thoughts on Jimenez? Still a good option, but I do prefer others like Antonio, Bamford when he's fit, Ronaldo, Vardy, Lukaku, so that's why I haven't gone for him myself. Jimenez just hasn't done the business so far, but I would expect him to get a few goals over the next few game weeks. What's your prediction for the Southampton Wolves game, Dylan? Could be a close one. In my preview, I said 0-0, and I said the same thing yesterday in my deadline stream, so I'd probably just stick to that, but you never know. It could be another surprise there. Wolves have been very difficult to predict for me this season. Thoughts on Welbeck? Just too injury prone for me, and I'd probably rather have Maupay and just Brighton defenders, really. I'm not too confident in their attack long term. What do you think about Jimenez in the next game weeks? I think he'll get a few goals. Not maybe too many, but I think he'll break the duck he's on right now. 50 points and 4 more to play. Great position to be in, Keith. I like the number 69. Thank you very much, Alexa. Yeah. Guys, double Chelsea or City defence on wildcard? I'd say one of each, if not double Chelsea. But even then, I'd want to have a City defender on top of that. Grealish for Sarr and -4, worth it. I wouldn't be getting rid of Grealish or Sarr for a -4, especially with the fixtures Grealish has from Game Week 8 onwards, and Sarr has poor fixtures going from Game Week 8, so yeah, I think it's an awkward one. You like 44, so are you Lewis Hamilton fan? Honestly, I'm not. Look, I like Hamilton, I do rate him, I think he's one of the best of all time, but I prefer Michael Schumacher, I prefer Senna, I prefer Fangio, even Prost and all these, but of course Hamilton is a really good driver, and I'm not racist. Ali says, when is Cancelo expected to be regularly rotated? I actually did answer your question, Ali, believe it or not. I did answer it. And in my opinion, he'll probably be rotated from, I'd say, February or March, if we're basing off last season. You can never say when a player is going to be rotated or not, but especially in a Pep Guardiola team. I don't think he's going to play every single game from now up until the end of the year. He's probably going to miss maybe 1 to 5 games. I'm not sure how many. I can't tell you for sure. But yeah, it literally can be any time, especially with the Champions League coming in. For example, City do play PSG away as well in between the Chelsea and Liverpool games. So don't be surprised if he doesn't play against Liverpool. Or maybe he plays these 2 games and then he's rested in Game Week 8 against Burnley at home. So that's what I think. Maybe Game Week 8, when we all bring him in, that's when he could be rotated. Most people at the very top of the ranking have used lots of chips too. It tends to be the case, you know. A lot of people just rush the chips. They're top of the kind of world at the moment, top of the rankings, and then they just plummet down. My team is very similar to yours, so I was wondering why are you wildcarding Game Week 8 and not in 7? With potential problems with Shaw, Ayling, Jota, and Chelsea price rises, also scared for international. Well, that's the thing. In international break, the good thing about wildcarding in Game Week 8 is that you are able to deal with any injuries or anything that happens in the international break. If you wildcard now in Game Week 7, you might have a few injuries and other things that happen like COVID or maybe just travel restrictions and stuff like that and quarantine heading into Game Week 8. So you might not be in a strong position heading into that game week. So that's just something to consider. There's no right or wrong. I'm still open to Game Week 7. Like I said, I need to finalise which game week I'm going to go for, but probably 7 or 8 in my opinion. I'm joining FPL for Game Week 7. How should I make my team? Yeah, I mean, I'd have to sign out actually to show you. But yeah, I mean, you just go onto the team, register your account. You have to put your details, and then you'll be taken to a squad selection. And I definitely wouldn't recommend going with this team, by the way, you see on screen, because I'm actually going to be wildcarding very soon, either in Game Week 7 or 8. But yeah, in terms of what I would recommend, get a City defender, get a Chelsea defender or 2, probably get Lukaku up front, Antonio, and depending on, you know, if you want to go for 5 in midfield, maybe just go for another striker. But yeah, I mean, there's no right or wrong there, but definitely go for Chelsea and City, target them, go for Antonio, he's a fantastic option, and an Arsenal defender or goalkeeper, Ramsdale, White, Tomiyasu, they're good choices, Livramento, very good value for money. And what I'd be doing actually is just having a look on the right hand side of the kind of transfer section and looking at all players. And also, if you want, there's a free trial for Fantasy Football Hub. What you could do there is use the site, check the stats and check different stuff, and you can have informed decisions or make informed decisions about your team, and I think you'll be in a better position. So that's different things you can do, of course. I'm giving you a lot of things to do there. I don't want to overwhelm you. But yeah, I think you could do really well, hopefully. Obviously, starting in Game Week 7, you're going to be a bit handicapped in a way, but still, it's good experience, and next season you can be a very good player, and even now you can learn a lot of things. Ronaldo to Lukaku, good move from next week? I think so. You don't have to do it in Game Week 7, you can do it in Game Week 8. I have Shaw, Gilmore, Williams, Obafemi and Ayling. Is it time to wildcard? Either Game Week 7 or 8. If you're not happy with your team in Game Week 7 at all, and you think a wildcard benefits you long term, then yeah. Oh no, Forza Messi versus Ronaldo debate. Look, Messi. Yeah, Messi. For me, it's a no-brainer. But of course, Ronaldo's a great player. In terms of goal scoring, they're comparable. But I think dribbling-wise, the passing, even the free kicks now, and just the control Messi has over a game, it's unbelievable. And the way I see it, Messi's just done things that no player's ever done before. Maybe Maradona, maybe Pele and Cruyff, but it's just something magical. It's kind of like a once-in-100 years player. So that's my opinion on the matter. Which is your favourite formation to use in FPL? Probably 3-4-3, 4-4-2 and 3-5-2. Those would be my three, but it's about the players, not the formations in my opinion. I'm on 54 points with 3 left to play and left Cancelo on the bench. Damn that, yeah. I mean, it makes sense though, because you would have thought Chelsea would have scored, so that's not the worst decision in the world. And 54 points with 3 left, that's really good, mate. Don't worry about that. North London derby predictions. I said 2-1 Arsenal, but more out of a hope than anything else. Hopefully, I'm right there. Hopefully. I just wildcarded Sanchez, Veltman, Cancelo, Trent, James, Rafinha, Salah, Sarr, Antonio, Vardy, Lukaku. Any changes? If so, who? That's a really good team, to be honest. I'm not too keen about double Brighton defence. You could just go for Livramento instead of Veltman. Southampton have some very good fixtures coming up. Yeah, I would get rid of potentially Reece James. Oh yeah, you did just wildcard actually. Yeah, when Brighton's fixtures turn, I'd probably get rid of Veltman and potentially get rid of Reece James for another Chelsea defender if he is out for a long time, but the rest is looking really good. Are you going to do Greenwood to Rafinha and Shaw to Alonso? I have only one free transfer, so I'd only do one of those. Either Jota to Rafinha, because I'm wildcarding in Game Week 8 potentially. That's if I don't decide to wildcard now. And if not, it will be Shaw to Alonso or Rudiger. Good night from India. It's 2 AM here. Thanks for answering all my questions patiently. Cheers, Dylan. Have a great Sunday. You too, Yogesh. And good luck with Game Week 7 and the rest. And also the rest of Game Week 6. We still have a way to go. Thank you very much, lads. Yeah, Not Sideman agrees. Messi is much better, says Alexa. But there will be some, obviously, people who think differently with Ronaldo. Your advice is great. You earned my sub. Thank you very much, Javier. Really appreciate it. Greetings from Morocco. Thank you very much, mate. And I've been very close to Morocco, but not actually there. In Tarifa, in the south of Spain. In your wildcard, will you get Ronaldo, Lukaku and Antonio? Lukaku and Antonio, but not Ronaldo. Safe. I won't be going Ronaldo in a wildcard. Messi and Ronaldo, both incredible players. I love them both. That's probably the right answer. I was just asking about my preference. And also, you know, he plays for my national team, so I'm going to be biased there in a way. But yeah, both incredible players. Alonso or Rudiger for Game Week 7? Assuming Alonso starts, I'd probably go for him. But just bear in mind, there is a possibility he doesn't. I have 2 free transfers this game week. Who would you transfer Digne and Jota out for? Or who would you transfer Salah out for 5.8 million mid and swap Scarlett for Lukaku? Oh, that's a good choice. Yeah. I mean, I would probably say an Everton midfielder, but they face Manchester United, and I'm not too sure about that, to be honest. I would be tempted by transferring Dini out for Alonso or Rudiger and probably Jota out for Rafinha. But yeah, that's a good shout. Getting Lukaku in and maybe a 5.8 million midfielder. Maybe Gallagher, for example, could be alright, but he does face Arsenal. I'm thinking of selling Trent for a Chelsea defender. Is that a good idea? If you're wildcarding Game Week 8, it is, but long term, I would keep Trent, in my opinion. 43 of 4 players left. That's very good, Alan. Very good. Is Kovacic a good option? One of the best around his price at this moment in time, but I don't expect him to continue it long term. And I'd rather get others like Sarr, even not Decore, maybe Decore. I'd be looking at the other Everton assets like Townsend and Gray. Yeah, not for me. I'm not really thinking about him. And also, he wasted precious Chelsea slot, either one. And Lukaku up front, you can have 2 Chelsea defenders, so it's not really a big one. Did you like Messi's reaction after substitution? I found it funny. But yeah, he does, I'd say, have a bit of an ego about him. He's just that type of player who just loves to play, and if you get rid of him or just substitute him out, he'll get pissed off. What are the odds that Armstrong will hit a brace tomorrow? Considering the week it is, I think it's pretty likely, to be honest. If any week, Armstrong's going to score a brace, probably that. I agree. Great advice, and going through the comments, definitely sub-worthy. Thanks. Thank you, Marlon. Thank you. Appreciate. Oh my God, I'm literally all over the place. I'm going to be ending the stream very soon. I'll be going through these last questions, but thank you very much, Marlon. Do you think Ramsdale's nailed, or do you think he'll rotate with Leno? I think for the time being he'll play the league games and Leno will play in the cup, but it could easily be changed. So he's not completely nailed, but at the moment I think he will be playing most of the games. I have Trent, Rudiger, Alonso, Rafinha, Saar, Benrama, Lukaku, Antonio. Should I save my wildcard till game week 14ish? You're in a position where you could do so, and if anything, you could bring in Cancelo into your defence. So that's not really the end of the world. I think you have a good team. In my opinion, Pele's the greatest ever for me. However, these two players are amazing and incredible. CR7 and Messi. Says Michael, fair enough. The only thing I would say to a lot of people who say Pele's the best ever, I mean, I'm not saying you might have seen him play, even if it's just videos or stuff. A lot of people just say Pele's the best, but they actually haven't seen him play. But yeah, Pele is definitely a shout for top 5, top 3 players of all time, and his goal scoring record is insane. Despite what people say about him. For 5.2, which one should I go for? Is Kovacic okay? I'd rather get a 4.5 million midfielder and use that money to upgrade someone else. I just don't like the options around that. I'm thinking of getting rid of Ronaldo. Should I do it or not? And if yes, for who? Long term, I'd get rid of him for Lukaku. To be honest, I'd rather have Lukaku. And even for the next few game weeks, Jamie Vardy's an interesting one. But of course, Ronaldo can still do well up until game week 14. But you don't want to be captaining him. And he's 12.5 million around that price. And that's just an awkward one. So I'd rather get someone else in. Keep Tony. Long term, yes, keep Tony. But for the time being, looking at the next 3 game weeks, I'd probably sell. Thanks, man. Thank you. Hiroi, hopefully I said that right. Hiroi. Yeah, hopefully I haven't butchered that. Why is no one talking about Christensen? I have, mate, especially with James being injured potentially. But let's wait and see for that news first. And in terms of Chelsea rankings, I actually put Christensen above Reece James heading into game week 6. He is a great option at 5 million. He either plays or doesn't play at all, which is very, very interesting, of course. Thank you very much to everyone who has been tuning in. Once again, if you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Really appreciate all the support today. And I'm going to be wrapping up the stream right now. I did stream yesterday and I'm streamed today, obviously. And I'm going to be streaming on Tuesday for UCL Fantasy Match Day 2. If you play that, join me in. If you haven't seen it already, you can check out my team selection for Match Day 2. Ahead of UCL Fantasy, I'll be making team selection videos for FPL, potentially a preview, best wildcard team. I'm going to try get all of that out within the next week or so. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Dylan_RCM. Thank you so much to those who sent in super chats today. Really appreciate it. And same with all the other live streams as well. Obviously, you don't have to, but it's very good of you. And yeah, hopefully you have a good game week. Also, obviously we still have some games left in game week 6, so good luck with the rest of it. It has been a tough one, but there will be better game weeks to come. And game week 7 should be better. And yeah, it's going to be a very popular time to wildcard. Same with game week 8. Thank you very much to everyone. Good luck, and I'll see you next time.